Welcome back, everybody, to the Meet the Bus podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Reckis, and this week we got episode 15. Got a very special guest on the podcast today. I just said it a couple seconds ago, but we're going to have like 8 full circle moments today. I'm very excited for the guest we have on today. Let's just get right to it. Let's cut right to it. So the guest I have on today marched tuba for the Colts Drum and Bugle Corps in 2013 and 2014. He marched for Carolina Crown in 2016 and 2017. And most recently, since 2021, has been a low brass tech at the Troopers, and has recently become a brass caption head at the Battalion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on Andrew Reeder. Welcome onto the podcast, good sir. Glad to have you today. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. You know, just another long day of teaching in the teaching world, and
Absolutely.
happy to be here. Excited to get to talk some drum corps. You know, it's not every day you get to really chat about this kind of stuff. So
I don't know if I didn't mention this actually, so I don't know if you want to mention to the people, but where are you teaching at? What's going on?
yeah, so I recently just finished my master's degree. I got my master's in conducting from Missouri State University down in Springfield, Missouri. So
Very
just
nice.
finished that up, being a graduate assistant for 2 years, and now I'm teaching at Lafayette High School in
Hell
Wildwood, Missouri, just southwest of St. Louis, one of the suburbs. So it's my first year here, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
Love teaching, which is going to be I would assume a lot of this podcast is going to be about the teaching side of it.
It's like the second half. I am so excited. Like doing all the prep for this. Like I mentioned, low brass tech at the Troopers from 2021 to right now. Very exciting time in the Troopers organization. I'm
really
excited
is,
to talk about it today. I'm very excited to talk
Looking
about
forward
it today.
to it.
One thing I mentioned in the beginning, just like full circle moments that are going to happen today. Let's start with number one, Lafayette High School. My first high school band competition ever in marching band was Lafayette High School. You also went to the same high school as me, Francis Howell High School. And
Shout out,
you
go
also,
Vikings.
just our first full circle moment of the day. I had to get that one
There's
off.
number
It's
one.
gonna happen. It's gonna happen a million times today.
Yep, it's funny. Our time actually didn't overlap. Is the interesting part.
No.
Yeah, well, I graduated 2014, class of 14.
Oh my god, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep. So just
That's
a couple
insane.
years separation, I think. I think the other full circle was that if you don't know if you remember, but I was teching the band at Howell when your freshman year.
The fact I didn't even mention that in the intro.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like that was a crucial.
It was just a short little time. You know, that was the summer between my summers of marching, and
that was banking.
I got asked to come out and help, and I wasn't there super long, but you know, it was a fun little one of my first teching job experiences. A good time.
Yeah, dude. Andrew was our balloon guy for band camp.
Yep.
Every day. That's where I learned balloon breathing techniques, everything like that. Andrew was our breathing guy. I'll never
I tend to be the breathing guy in places I go because people are like, oh, you know how to do that stuff. It's like, yep. It's not hard.
Oh my god.
In and
We're
out.
having another full circle. Like, dude, you're the guy who taught me like the field measurements. Like you taught me field math my freshman year. I'll never forget. I remember we were on a water break and I went up to you and like you broke down like an 8 to 5 step what the field math was of every single tick. I'll never forget that because I've used that ever since that day. Like when I've
once
gone
you
to
know,
teach,
it's like, oh my god,
the whole field just makes sense now.
Yep.
Yeah, I took that and ran with it because I was like, dude, this is cool.
No, I remember talking with some of the other staff members at the time. We were all like, you know, we knew your brother, we knew he marched. We're like, this kid's gonna go march drum corps, and lo and behold, literally within less than a year, you were marching your first season. We're like, yep, that's about what we expected.
I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I was just like a delusional 15-year-old. I was 14 actually at the time when I first started. I remember I went up to you and Joe Sparks, and it was on like a lunch break, and I'm just like picking your guys' brain about like how to get into drum corps.
How do I do it? What's the secret?
How do I get to an audition? What should I do? What's the thing?
Well, I remember you talking about you wanted to march Boston because that was your brother's Ageout summer too, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes. 2014 or 2015?
2016.
2016. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that summer. Yep. You know, looking back on it, it's so funny. I remember I think it was like my third year drum corps. I went back and watched my freshman year of high school and just watched my marching, and I was just like, what was I thinking?
Who is that? I don't know him. What was I
thinking?
Dude, I know. Anytime I go back and watch my freshman year of high school, I just cringe. I'm like, oh, there's the baritone that can't keep his horn up. It's me, who's also playing too freaking loud and being a stick out. Didn't know what that was at the time. I'd kill myself if I was a student now.
You thought it was great because you're like, I'm contributing.
Yeah, I'm him. I'm playing loud.
Then you're an educator and you go listen back. You're like, what?
I literally could pick myself out of the ensemble listening back to some high school band recordings. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I'd yell at myself right now.
If I could go back in time, like, dude, blend your sound,
blend in.
I don't know
Oh
how
my
to get yelled
goodness.
at more, man. I was freaking freight train on that baritone.
Oh
Being
my
being an
goodness.
eventual tuba player, I had too much air for that little thing.
I feel that in lead trumpet land. Absolutely.
Oh, dude,
I had no sense of blend
I do not know
until
how y'all do it.
until I
That's
went to go play third trumpet, and they're like, "Yeah, you don't have range. You're gonna play third." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool.
let's
I get this
go.
now. I get ensemble
Third
playing.
trumpet's
This
holding
makes
it
sense."
down. My favorite
Dude,
section in the horn line.
third trumpet is the best part to play. Let's just talk. I'll advocate. I played 3 years on third. Okay, I'll
Dude.
advocate for everybody there. I wasn't some lead player. I played lead 1 year. I played lead 1 year. I played third 3 other years, and I was just like third's the best part.
Third
Let's be
trumpets
real.
hold it down, man. It's their make or break to a really good horn line. There's the third trumpets and the second mellophones. If you have
It's
good
very
third
true.
trumpets and third baritones, good thirds, good seconds, you're gonna be a
Like
solid horn line.
the mistake a lot of high schools and even like college bands are just like, okay, well the less talented are gonna go on like third and second, and that's exactly how this is gonna work. And then it's like,
The exact
wait,
opposite.
when you need a foundation, and then you're like, wait, we need our foundation of this chord right here, and it's like, oh wait, all our players are not as talented as you know what I'm saying, but we're the ones who put them in that position. It's like, no, you need some. Like there's been we've had Joey Teixeira on the podcast. Me and him played third together in 2019 at Blue Knights. We both played third together. He ends up being like a lead trumpet screamer for BD this past summer. Like, you learn how to become a better ensemble player. You learn how to become a better player. Like overall, just making better sounds in your range. Like, I'm just saying, fellas, don't discredit third.
No, man, third trumpets are where the real homies are.
The real
yeah,
homies.
one of my horn sergeant from 2016, Corey Gates. He was a 5-year Crown vet, and I'm pretty sure he marched all 5 years on third trumpet at Crown.
Dude, that's badass.
Held it down.
That's badass.
He's on staff at Avon now, and living the dream.
Look at him
doing the thing. He's awesome. Shout out Corey.
That's awesome. That's incredible, dude. Let's hop in. Got some questions today. Got a lot of questions actually.
Fire away.
Let's start at the top. Everyone who's played an instrument who comes onto this podcast, which has been everybody so far in 15 episodes. But first question for everybody. What inspired you to pick up your instrument?
Oh, back in being 12-year-old in 6th grade, I remember going to the band instrument selection night. I honestly don't remember many of the details. Yeah. But if your school never did one, my school would do a instrument petting zoo type, where they would like set up a bunch of tables in the gym, and you go around and you try the mouthpieces of all the different instruments and see what you're good at making a sound at, and then you like give a ranking of which instruments you like the most. Yeah. And then the people at the tables will like take your sheet and write how you did on a scale of like 1 to 5, and then they use that information along with the instrumentation needs of the band to kind of place people into what section. So when I finished my petting zoo time, I remember they took my rankings for the instruments I liked, and they took the rankings that I was good at, and they came up with my top 3. My first one was actually oboe.
Ooh.
Funny enough. Yeah. They said I made a good sound on the reed on the oboe, I guess. I didn't know I was 12. I was just blowing air into this little tiny thing. Second was baritone, and third was like I think like saxophone. I don't even remember, but I remember the top 2. The first one was oboe, second one was baritone.
Everybody who's come on before, they've always talked about like the petting zoo thing, and they're just like, yeah, I wanted to play saxophone originally, and they all turn out to be brass players. Everyone's like,
it's the pipeline, man. It's the pipeline. So I started on baritone as a little 6th grader, played baritone all throughout middle school, and funny enough, I like band was okay. I didn't super like band. I didn't really like my middle school band director too much. The lady that taught me wasn't super great. The head director for the middle school was awesome. She was great. If it weren't for her, I probably wouldn't have continued band. But I was actually going to quit band after 8th grade because I was like, it's too time consuming. I don't really, it's just whatever. Band is just a second thing. I don't really care about it. I'm just doing it because I'm already in it,
Right.
And I was going to go into that freshman year of high school not doing band. And one of my really good friends, lifetime friend, childhood best friend, Zach Kleist, was like, hey, man, you need to give this marching band thing a shot. You're going to love this. I was like, I don't know. It sounds like a lot. It's like, give it one season. I promise it'll be fun. And I did. And from that time on, that's been nonstop band for almost 15 years now. So
the infamous words, just give it one day.
Give it one semester, give it one chance. And, I've said that same line to many students in my time, and got a lot of kids in drum corps, got a lot of kids playing in college.
Yep. Happens every time. It really does. It's crucial. It's crucial in those like middle school to high school years to like, I think it is cool to like, it's crucial being something like that, to be in a band with like a large group of people that you can also, especially when you get to high school and you walk in your freshman year.
It is. It's huge.
Freshman year of high school
into that school and you know people, unlike most of the freshmen that are like, I know the other 8th graders that are now freshmen with me. You know juniors, you know seniors,
right?
You know the building, you know where stuff's at. You just start a leg up being a kid in school. So
you feel comfortable because there's people that you know that aren't just like the people you came in with from middle school. You have other friends. You have things to look forward to, like in the day, after school, over the weekend. You get to see all these people, and it's just like, so like
it makes a really tough transition into high school a lot more seamless and a lot easier for a lot of kids. From my personal experience and from, seeing kids go through it from years of teaching. So
yeah. And the thing is always just like, oh, it's scary. What if it's scary? And it's just like, it might be scary for like, especially like first day of band camp when you get there in the morning, you're like, oh.
First day of school is nothing compared to first day of band camp.
First day of band camp, I remember I was just like, oh.
And like, I don't know about you, but for me, second day of band camp is always terrible. Oh, yeah, because first day you're like, I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. And then you get your butt kicked marching 8 to 5 and holding your horn up for hours. And then you go in day 2 and you're like,
again,
oh my God, I have to do this again for the rest of the week. That day 2 is where a lot of kids, it's make or break. If they can get them back, if you can come back for day 2, you're gonna keep them for a while.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yep. Day 1, everyone's gonna show up if they said they would most of the time.
Yep. So right. And then no, you're absolutely right, because then they find out what it's actually about, and that's how you. Yep. No, absolutely right.
Yeah, it's super pivotal time, especially having good leadership to be able to like, hey, we want you here as students, keeping students around and keeping that engagement from student to student and within the sections,
Yeah,
it's huge.
That's something I missed because like we've talked about already on here, but like I ended up doing drum corps right away after my freshman year. Like I hopped right in. 14-year-old, I was like auditioning. I was just going out there. Like I went immediately. And the thing with that though is, like we're talking about with band camp, when you start doing drum corps, you obviously miss band camp. You're on the road. You're doing all of those things. So you miss all of the coming together time with everybody. You get thrown in when school starts and when they've already been like 2 weeks in, getting to know each other, and then it's just like, hey, welcome this kid,
welcome back to band. It's like, oh God, who are you?
Learn the drill in 2 days, and you're like,
it's a rough transition getting back to school from a season of drum corps. Having lived it, having seen students do it, it takes a very special kind of student and special kind of people to be able to go off and march all summer and come back to a high school program.
Something I definitely want to hit on, but for starters, since we're talking about drum corps already, how did you get introduced to DCI?
Yeah, dude, I love talking about this because I honestly, my experience in DCI started just watching drum corps videos, and there were a lot of people at the high school that marched, and a lot of people that were friends of friends marched, and I remember hearing about this and that. Madison Scouts were a big talk of the town around that time. One of our former techs that you had as well, Jason Bergman.
Yep.
He was a big inspiration for me as well, who I actually teach with now. I don't know if I told you that.
No,
Jason teaches at the middle school I help out at. So
that's sick.
Yeah, getting to work with him every day is a blast.
That's super cool. So that's awesome.
It's a big full circle for me. Shout out Jason Bergman. I probably wouldn't be here today, weren't for him. So Madison Scouts, watched 2011 Scouts, and the thing that really hooked me was 2010 Madison Scouts. Actually, there's like this rehearsal video of them somewhere in the middle of nowhere, probably like Madison, Wisconsin type beat, rehearsing their show, doing a show day run through, just in there, wearing the short shorts, section shorts, all tan and sweaty. And I watched that video so many times. Oh my God. I think there was they did like a Rhapsody in Blue show, and I like had just discovered Rhapsody in Blue.
I think it was actually.
Oh yeah, I know it is. I watched that show so many times. But so I watched that show and I was like, oh, I want to go for Madison Scouts. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. I remember talking about the auditions with Jason and Brandon and where does everyone want to go? And Jason had marched Pioneer already at that time, and Brandon was thinking about going to other places. And one of our color guard friends, Chelsea, she was a senior, and when I was a freshman, and she had told me about these auditions for the Colts. And I was like, okay, Colts, I don't know who they are. I'll watch a video. And the Colts 2012, there's a video of their closer on YouTube, and it's the drum major. His name is Casey Hallahan. He ended up being one of my drum majors when I marched. Phenomenal trumpet player, just screaming.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't Casey. Sorry, there was another guy. His name is John Fuller. John Fuller was the screamer. Casey and John did a.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
2012.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm confusing my years. 2012 was John Fuller.
He's done a lot, ladies and gentlemen. He's done a lot.
There was another. Casey was a screamer for our 2013 show in the drum major, so I'm confusing.
You guys had a lot of screamers in that show,
dude. It's funny. I'll touch on that in a second. But John Fuller, his solo at the end. You know the tune "All by Myself."
Yes.
Yeah. So he's doing a little solo unaccompanied, just him screaming "All by Myself." Yeah. And it comes into the full horn line moment, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Oh my gosh. What? So I was like, yeah, I'll go out for this. I've never done drum corps. I've never seen drum corps live. I've never been to a camp, but I'll go. So we go to the Colts December camp, and here I am, like a junior in high school, had only marched really one season at Tuba, except for playing a concert band. And they're like, yeah, you're pretty good. We'll give you a contract. No idea what that meant at the time. I was like, does that mean I'm in? Like, yeah, you're in. It's like, cool.
Off a December camp?
Off a December camp, yep. As a rookie, junior in high school, you know.
Was there like stress at all? Were you just going in just like, hey?
I went into that camp with no expectations. I really had no idea. I've seen drum corps. I knew that it was banned all summer. I knew that it had really loud brass.
And that's cool.
That's about it. I was like, it's cool. I like this. This is cool.
I like that.
So I marched the Colts my 2013 for my rookie season, kind of blind, you know. And I actually marched my first drum corps show before I ever watched a live drum corps show.
No way. What was that like for you on the road when you get out there? Is it just like, because for me, I don't know, man, I have such a weird like reference point for me, because like my drum corps history goes all the way back to when I was like 11 years old. Yeah. So like I had just been around the activity for so long that by the time I started auditioning, I knew like everything about every corps. Yeah.
So I knew enough to know about like, who are the best drum corps were at the time. Like I knew Carolina Crown was pretty good. I knew the Blue Devils were pretty good. I had seen a couple other shows, but I really only watched the shows that like people that I knew had marched or videos people had sent me. And so I went into that first season kind of like not expecting, you know, what to do or what was going to look like. And it really, at that time, Colts felt like just a really intense high school band. Yeah. And, you know, memory for now serves that I was just I was in survival mode, honestly. Like I was just thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get through the next day? Oh my God. You know, I'm a little bit of a bigger dude. I think I went into my rookie year of drum corps weighing like 300 pounds. Big boy. I think I lost like 80 pounds that summer.
And that tuba, ridiculous. Holding that tuba up 12 hours a day is probably
dude, I mean, that was the first summer Mark Sylvester was writing our drill. I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Sylvester. No. Hall of Fame, DCI drill writer, wrote for the cadets back in the day. Has been all around the block designing and consulting for WGI, DCI. But he wrote some crazy hard drill for that Colts horn line. And there's a first year visual program with Mark there too. And
it seemed like there was a lot of like first year people there watching, just like because I found the whole like 2012 documentary of the Colts, watched through that, and then watched through like 2013 stuff, and it seems like there was a whole like staff changeover in that.
Yeah, so the big staff change was that the visual staff in 2013 was former Blue Knights people. Funny enough, so it was the Blue Knights visual team came over in that 2013 when Mark got hired as the program designer. I can't remember what the official title was, but he was writing the drill and coming up with the storyboards and all that stuff. Like it was his creative process that led the drum corps. And so he brought in Craig Sellers as our visual caption head. And he brought in a bunch of former members and people that had taught and marched at Blue Knights. And so got taught some Blue Knights straight leg because they were the team straight leg at the time. Yep. And the next brass transition team came over in 2014, and that was Jason Buckingham and his team. And they were at Crossman the previous years. So if you remember the 2011 Crossman, that Earth song with that trumpet player.
Oh, come on now. I'm a trumpet player. That was like one of the first videos I ever saw. And I was like, that is, I want to do that.
Yeah. So that 2011 Crossman, 2012 Crossman, those really good years of Crossman making finals for the first time in a while. That was his team and some of his people. That was his horn lines. Yep.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, and J Buck, lovingly referred to as J Buck, he's kind of infamous for being a guy that goes in and makes horn lines that are probably not finalist material into finalist horn lines. And so, him coming into the Colts really kicked our butt, especially from the 2013 team. Love the staff of the 2013 people, but
absolutely
coming into 2014 season, it was just like a huge paradigm shift. And with 2013, we didn't do any video assignments. We didn't do any off-season stuff. It was just like, okay, you're in. We'll see you in May. And we'll come back. We'll come to camps. Yeah. Dude,
no
the video
assignment
stuff. Not at that time. I mean, there was a couple things. I remember doing a couple like in between stuff, but it was mostly just coming to camps and mostly just
like just have for the summer prepared for the next month.
Yep, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was common across the activity at the time because I was a rookie, didn't know any differently.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Going into that first summer, woefully unprepared, visually way unprepared.
Yeah.
I was luckily a good enough tuba player to where I could, make my way through the music without too much help. But no, that 2013 brass team was pretty good. I think they were former Vanguard people, so they were good.
Damn.
I don't remember, honestly, a whole lot. I remember the visual team mostly just because they were always on my ass about foot timing, which is why I'm like so on kids' butts about foot timing nowadays.
Let's go. Same.
Dude, if you can't march in time, you can't play in time, can't do anything else. Foot
can't
timing
do anything else
in the activity.
And also, like, the big thing that you understand when you get to drum corps is like where the downbeat happens. You think you know where the downbeat is happening when you first start marching, and you're like, "No, I'm in time, I swear." And it's like, no, like your feet are phasing so bad. And when you hear that for the first time in drum corps, you're like, "What do you mean I'm phasing?"
And then you start to see it, and you're like, "Oh,
here, watch this video real quick." They'd like show a video of it and be like, "Do you see what's happening to yourself right now?" I'm like, "Oh,
that's me. I'm doing that.
That's where the downbeat is." Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Sick.
So going into that, so having that visual team on my butt for that rookie season, coming into 2014, having them there for year two, that's a good show too. And that 2014 Colts Dark Side of the Rainbow,
dude,
fun season.
I forgot that was the show for that summer because I remember I kept getting the years mixed up for which show that was. I kept confusing that with 15 because I remember when I went to go see my brother. Dude, I loved that show so much.
The 15 show, the 14 show, or the 15 show.
The 14 show, I should say. I'm getting confused again, but the 14 show, I loved that show. I remember like when I was watching, I go see my brother and I'd see that show. I was like, dude. That show, so like I like me as a kid, like I just fell in love with the narrator, everything about it. I was just like, this
good
is
old
so
Bobby.
sick. This
Bobby
is so
was
much,
really
this
great.
is so different in the activity. This is something I haven't seen. I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a very fresh take in the drum corps world, especially it was like hadn't quite pivoted to, there were storytelling drum corps in that time, but like it was still pretty fresh to do live narration and do live, storytelling. Well, don't get me wrong, other drum corps do tell stories, but having someone like physically on a microphone, sounding out, spelling out live, doing that,
not just a sound over, but live.
Yeah, so it was a fun show. A lot of great people there, a lot of great staff members. I have a lot of fond memories of that summer. So
absolutely. Something I wanted to ask about. I thought about this right before the interview, but do you remember like your very first show in drum corps at all? Like, do you remember what that was like for you?
Honestly, my first season, the shows really blended together because, like I said, super survival mode. 17-year-old had no idea what I was getting into. I remember our first performance. It was a community performance. I think it was like Brass and Brats is what we call it. And so we would host the show that we were, the school we were housed at. We would like pull up a grill and barbecue a bunch of like hot dogs and brats and do a premiere of the show whenever that time came around. Yeah. And I remember we did it in our Shakos and white t-shirts and our section shorts. And I just remember putting the hat on for the first time and I was like, whoa, this is like kind of real. I'm actually doing this thing. And then I get to the end of the show for the first time and I was like, oh my God, I did this. Like, gasping for air. It's like
all the adrenaline just goes away and you're like, God. Whoa.
It really, from that point on, I love performing. I love the rush of, the going on autopilot, but like not going on autopilot, but when you're in the zone and you're doing the thing, and it just goes, flow. And you start it, you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. And it just,
on the field, it's over. It's over. What?
It's done.
Did I even do anything? It's like, yeah, I did. It's just gone.
No, it happened. It's all done. Like you did everything. You're done. Like I just remember like pulling up. I was so nervous for that first show. We were in Eugene, Oregon. I'm pretty sure it was this big like overhead stadium. It's packed up there. It's a home show. And like one of the very first sets, I have to do like a floor roll into like this like very first thing I have to do is floor roll onto both knees. And I like look up at the audience and it's like,
and you're like,
the first time I've seen that many people sitting in stands about to watch what I'm going to do. I'm like, am I going to forget my whole show? That's the only thing I can think of. Like,
what do I do next? What do I do next? What comes next? And it just happens because you're just so trained and conditioned to just keep doing it. You just keep doing it.
Yep. And you get told every segment and you're like, okay, this to this to this. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, you did go do the show. And it's just like, did I remember everything?
I will say one of my,
done this for a month.
Yeah. I will say one of my most memorable shows from my first year was actually the Dubuque show, the home show for the Colts.
Nice. Yeah.
So that was pretty early in the season, if I remember. I think we did like a couple, like 2 or 3 shows before that. And then they hosted a show in Dubuque. And that was also happened to be the Colts' 50th anniversary in that 2013 season. And so they put together a little mini alumni corps, and we played some old classic Colts tunes for an encore.
Nice.
And so that performance was cool. But the thing that I remember most about that was, most shows when you're doing them, the home corps goes on last, regardless of where their placing was.
Yeah.
And so that year, for some reason, the Blue Devils were there. And I had seen the videos of the Blue Devils, and I was like, oh, yeah, they're pretty good. But then standing in the end zone, getting ready to go perform, and just seeing the Blue Devils from the end zone, I was just like...
And the whole crowd's going...
Yeah, they're going wild. And I was like...
We have to go on after.
What? We have to perform after that? And that was their Rite of Spring show. So they were just booking it, playing super dissonant music. Oh my gosh. So going on after that and in front of a home crowd, the crowd was louder for us, obviously, being the hometown crowd.
Thank God it's a home show.
Thank God.
Thank God. I can't go on after that.
No, but I remember that one pretty vividly. And it was just at some high school right outside of Dubuque. Pretty big stands, pretty big. It was packed, like standing room only. People were on top of the press box on the side of the stadium watching the Colts.
That's so sick.
Yeah, and then the encore with all the alumni getting to like intermingle and disperse with them and play some old Colts tunes. And one of the dudes that was a screamer for the 97 show, whenever they made finals in the 90s.
93?
I think it was later than that. I think they made it later in the 90s. I can't remember, but
about that one.
It was Summertime. I remember that the tune was Summertime from Porgy and Bess.
I think I know which one you're talking about too.
Yeah, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but that guy, we played that tune and just seeing him wailing, I was just like, yeah,
he still got it.
He still got it. Still got it. That was a fun season.
That's so cool. In that show, was there any like Colts, like for a 50th anniversary show? Did you guys do any like special like?
Yeah, the last set of the show. The last set of show was a triangle with the Colts.
The triangle,
logo.
I saw that.
Yeah, the triangle with the lines coming out. I remember where we did it was the whole theme of the show was like a celebration of Iowa. And so we started off the show with the beginning, Can't Help Falling in Love.
Yep.
So the entire chorus sang that one to start us off. Then it went into like a slow At Last. I can't remember the writer for that one. I think it's Ella Fitzgerald, At Last. That sound right? Can't remember.
Let's look it up right now while we're sitting here. We got time.
We got time.
We
had 2 trumpet screamers for that one. One of them was Casey Hallahan, the drum major. The other one was a guy named Sean Etta James. There it is.
Etta James.
Etta James.
There you go.
So that was the opener after singing Can't Help Falling in Love. And
great opener, by the way. Just great. Like starting off with that, cool. Starting off with the whole core singing. That's so sick.
Yeah, and that was only the pre-show, so luckily that wasn't judged because we could not sing super well. I remember the first time singing that, I was like, "What? I'm here for brass and I'm singing? Why am I singing?" Yeah. Luckily, came to find out singing is a big part of drum corps in the brass world. So, that opening hit with the double trumpet screamers was always really cool to hear. It got me hyped up for that first impact.
Yeah,
and then the show kept going. We did like some like 60s, 70s style swinging stuff. had some fun charts. And then the ballad was Field of Dreams.
Fun little tuba feature in there too. Let's not forget that. Yep. Very fun tuba feature in there too. That was fun.
That was a good time. That was a good one. Field of Dreams ballad was pretty cool. It was supposed to be we had this really powerful form at the end of the second movement, and then we like dispersed out across the field, and it's supposed to be like a cornfield type of.
Oh, okay.
That was the idea. I don't know if that came across, but it would. Those Colts uniforms at that time were super cool because they had we had the double plumes with the white front and the black back. And
were those new for that year or no?
They were. That was the first year those were used.
Those, because I really love those.
They had like the ombre up to the red to the purple.
Those are clean.
Cool. I have my uniform upstairs. Actually, I bought one whenever they were selling them off, and I bought one. So it's in my closet right now.
That's cool because I don't know if they'll ever wear those again. So
no, they can't. They're sold. They got rid of them all. I have one.
Nice. Hell yeah.
But when we turned back field, it was all black. So the visual design of that, anytime we would turn back field, was really cool. And then we did that, and the ballad was so interesting because Mark is a cadets guy, and he set it up to where we did a company front hit slow.
You guys did you did it was a company forte. Company forte.
Company of whatever. I have another funny way to say that too. I'm sure you know drum corps.
How many years have I done band? I'm gonna really do
too many. So we hit that the company front, and it's just like a mezzo forte hit, but he made the drill happen to where we were off of our right foot.
Yeah,
we stepped off for the ballad hit on our right foot.
They break off into separate lines like every 5 people, but then that just rotates back into the company front again for the sustain. I was like,
it was interesting. It was cool. We also did backwards toe roll. I don't know if you've ever marched like that style before, but the idea is it's the opposite of straight leg. Cadets used to do it. But when you were marching backwards, instead of staying on your platforms, you actually like land with your platform, but then roll backwards onto your heel. So it's like if you were to reverse the video of you marching backwards, the goal was you weren't supposed to be able to tell if you were marching forwards or backwards.
Seems like a great way to follow.
It took a lot of cleaning, and I don't think it ever really did get clean, but it sure was an effect that we did. And
we did try.
And then we get into that we get into a drum break. And I actually really like the drum break from that show. The end of the drum break, we get into like this big block formation. And they have it to where there's like every 2 lines, and there's always a front facing line and a back facing line. So when the uniform would flip over, we'd flip to color, flip to black, and it would just keep flipping every 4 counts. So it was like flip 2, 3, flip 2, 3, just over and over while doing crazy box drill stuff. There was a day in mid tour, I think it was like post spring training, like we did like a mini second spring training where we would stay in one spot for a week. And I remember it was super rainy one day, and we were just repping the crap out of that while we were learning it, and super muddy field from repping it so many times. And I remember we did a really hard direction change. My foot slipped. I fell, and we were at carry, and the tuba goes straight into the ground, crumple the bell. First time I'd ever fallen with a tuba. Luckily we stopped. Luckily we were just repping small chunks, so it didn't keep going, so I didn't get run over. But that was the first and I think only time I really dropped the horn and really got badly messed up. Anytime I've ever fallen after that, it's been I hurt myself. Did you just get a
new one, or did you have someone just like replace?
Oh no, not at that time for the Colts. That was you
get it rolled out. Yours.
You get it rolled out at the show whenever the brass doctor's there, and that's your horn. So it was fine. It wasn't super bad. It was like the part of that crinkled up was like the inside of the bell where you couldn't see it, because I fell like straight down on it.
I remember when in 2017 when System Blue sent out their this is no diss to them.
No diss to System Blue.
No diss to them. They do great jobs. They do great things. But they sent out their basically like their beta testing of instruments that they wanted to produce, the line they wanted to produce the next year, which would be their official line. But they wanted us to be the guinea pigs for what they were coming up with. And like in the middle of some rep, like legitimately, like there's the front bell part of the tuba, like one of our tubas is marching, and his whole front bell part just off. The rest of the horn is still on his shoulder, dude. The front bell just like
I believe
off.
It. There was a week.
System Blue, can we like tag them in a picture?
So funny thing, that summer as well, 2017, Crown has the Crown store, you know. And they were looking at buying some System Blue horns to be able to sell on the Crown store. And so what do? They buy one of each, have the members of Carolina Crown test them out,
Yep.
And so for one day of spring training, I had to march a System Blue horn. I'm not going to say much, not to dog on it, but I definitely prefer the Yamaha marching Contras. Those are by far, in my opinion, the most superior marching tuba you can get on the market.
Yeah.
I definitely understand the System Blue though.
Absolutely.
Even for a day, I was like, I'm good. I'll keep the Yamahas. They asked us to like write a review of what we thought of it, and I was like, it plays okay. It plays all right.
I feel like their whole thing, like they wanted to curate a line of instruments for the marching art specifically. So a lot of their things were about like, the instruments being lighter, very easy to pick up.
If I remember, they also like had notches on the tuning slides as well, so you could remember where the tuning slide was. If I remember that.
And they broke that down. They tried to break that down to us, and then listen, everyone in brass world ever, anyone in music education ever everyone has an opinion about something. Everyone has the right way, the wrong way. So when those notches came into play and they were like, this, whatever, I remember like before regionals, when we got those instruments, we had to go like tune them before we would go to the regional so we could have it at like the certain, like,
you would tune in the gym to be able to tune in the AC because that's what
it's like. Okay, so these ticks mean like this for this, so I'm gonna need you to be at like this. You know what I'm saying? And it was So
we all do that.
Yep. So
and back in the day, we would actually like take like a nail file and like file in,
carve it. Yes,
carve it in.
Absolutely. Yep, did that too. Yeah, it was a time. It was definitely a time.
I remember doing that a lot at Colts, even at Crown. We did that. We did that too.
Where'd you guys march at Colts for tubas?
Yamaha
too? Very nice. Yep. Okay, cool.
So when I ended up leaving Colts, I said I wasn't going to go anywhere else that didn't march Yamaha tubas because I was like, I've tried other tubas. The tubas at the high school I went to, Francis Howell, were Canstol 5/4 convertible tubas.
Phew.
Beasts of the tuba. Disgusting. Awful the hold, awful the march. Didn't sound super great. No. But man, did we hold those tubas.
Yep, absolutely. Something I wanted to ask is like, how hard is life in the summer of a tuba player? Because obviously for me, I've had a lot of like high brass people on, and I've had like euphonium players on, so we have that. But I feel like for a tuba, 12 hours a day, like when you have to like carry that thing around with you everywhere, like maybe it's a dumb question, but how hard is the summer, especially in your first summer? It's just like, how hard is that for you? I don't think people understand how like actually hard that is. I think
it's a lot of metal to lug around on the field and everywhere you go all the time, and just basically always having one hand less whenever you have the tuba, transitioning from block to block to meals, just having to carry it everywhere.
Especially
my right arm is definitely my right arm is definitely a lot stronger than my left arm because of it. And I remember we come up with very clever ways to carry the tuba. Like I've seen people like put it on their shoulders, like put their arm through it and carry it on their shoulder. They put it up and put it on either shoulder. Some people would go a left-hand trail. You just got to figure out ways to just save your right arm from always holding the tuba.
What's the most like efficient way to clean a tuba on the road? Because I know for me with my little paperclip trumpet, I can just like scrub real quick, put it in the shower. Like you guys have to like that's a process. I watch many tubas. It's a process.
So the big thing we did, we always used Wyman Silver Cream as like our main polish, and we would do like one big polish once a week, and use that cream and get all this the tarnish off and get all the dirt and grime that builds up from the daily use. But
absolutely,
if we're going like multiple show days in a row where we don't need to do a full polish, we would actually use Windex. We would just like get a Windex bottle and some paper towels, and we would spray the bell, spray the outside facing part of the bell to make sure that was super shiny, and all the big parts with Windex. Yep. I remember I used Windex wipes at one point when those came out. Those were a lifesaver. Didn't need to carry around a bottle of Windex everywhere. Efficiency was great. And then, there's just so many little nooks and crannies on those tubas that getting in there and getting all the built dirt and grime is just really difficult to do on the road daily. So and I don't know if you know, but like whenever horn loading has to happen for shows, tubas have to be like the first thing loaded a lot of the time because they're so big. And so
you have to move.
Well, your guys' EPLs were literally eat, pack, load. Ours was like polish, go shower,
polish while eating.
Yeah, I did EPL backwards for all 4 years of marching. Like I would literally go polish my horn first, go shower because I had silver polish all over me,
Right.
Then I would pack, and then I would go eat, and then as I'm eating, I'll be in the halves, getting ready to get on the bus.
That's stressful.
It's definitely, and there have been whenever the showers were further away from the ET, and it's like you're booking it to get to where you're trying to go. Luckily, you move faster without the tuba because you've been conditioned to move fast with the tuba.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
Oh my God. That's why I ask it. Cause I'm just like, man, for me, I mean, life is so easy as a trumpet player. Like people, no trumpet players can complain, dude. We have it very easy. We have a very easy trumpet, like a very easy instrument to clean.
Yep.
Like that's something that you do like most of the time when you're on tour is like, like before every show, basically, like you're cleaning your horn. For us, it's very easy. Like a trumpet player, you can just like scrub it on there real quick, take it with you in the shower, and then just like rinse it off and then take it out, like dry it, and you're good to go. And like that, you can even do it on the bus. It's that easy. It's just like we're able to dry polish. It's just like that's why I ask, because I'm just like, for me,
it's a
like,
different world.
My EPL process was nothing like my EPL process was like super easy. Like it was like, well, I wouldn't say that because I did scaffolding for 3 out of my 4 years.
Rest
so
in
like
peace to scaffolding people, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Anybody I knew on scaffolding crew hated it.
Yeah.
Well, the only nice thing was getting up early, they said. Sometimes.
So here's the thing with scaffolding. Sub 12 sucks. Like when you're like not top 12, it sucks because you're probably not getting a stadium with a press box and everything and all that. So like most of the time when I did
multiple scaffolding for multiple fields and
right, and and you have to take it out to like you have to push it way out there to some grass field with all the potholes in it, and then
it's just a nightmare.
So that's when it sucked. But like when we got to BK, they were just like, "No, you guys don't have to take it out today." We're like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "No, we have a stadium. Like we don't have to." You don't have to do that.
Yes, sir.
Like, cool. And then the times we did, we were like, nope, we will do it. Absolutely, we'll do it.
And then my 9 times out of 10, you're waking up so late that you just only doing an ensemble and you only need one scaffolding. Whereas, I've been in open class teaching. We need scaffoldings at every field because we're trying to break things down, and everybody needs a scaffolding to get up and see their sections.
Yep.
So that's the life of the scaffolding crew. Shout out if you're on scaffolding crew at any time when you marched, man. That job is thankless, especially
not easy
on top 12 course. That's
especially
if you
if you lose any piece, because there's so many pieces to the scaffolding. If you lose one, like we did in 2017, like we lost. I'm pretty sure like we lost a pin or something, and it's just like
God.
Because
then the staff is yelling at you. Why is the scaffolding shaking?
Tim Snyder yelled at me.
Oh God, I'm sure we'll talk about Tim Snyder later. Love Tim.
We definitely will, but he definitely was just like scaffolding. What is going on? Like it's just like he's at the top and it's just shaking everywhere.
Shaking it.
And he's like, I'm going down. Like I'm not staying up here. This doesn't like he's just getting down. I'm like, okay, come on, like let's go, please.
Oh man,
love scaffolding life. Coming off of that rookie year, when you came home, I remember because I've known you because my brother went to high school with you, so I've known you for years. And I remember when you came home. Like your whole, and it happens to everybody, but when you come home from that first summer, there's so much like gratitude and there's so much just like newfound respect for like everything. And it just feels like you're so much more thankful for everything that you have and you just get to have like in life. That's just like very simple things like in life. When you go back to your marching band program and all of that, and you have the parents that are helping out doing anything from like uniform fitting to the cooking to anything like that, you're so much more like appreciative of everything that's there. Like I wanted, because I haven't really gotten to talk about that on this podcast, but like, what was that like for you when you got to come home and like, because I remember for me, it was just like this whole new sense of like gratitude for everything around me. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So like just, especially at that young age of, 15, 16, 17, getting out to experience life outside of your hometown, outside of your home band program or wherever you're at, and just getting to meet new people, getting to hear about experiences, especially learning how to do band at such a high level and going back to your home program and having your newfound knowledge and using what you learned to make yourself better and try to help people at your school too. It all it's all about how you go about, sharing your experience. There are a lot of people that tend to go back to their programs and try to be the know-it-all and try to be someone's like, I'm our drum corps and this is how we did it, so you have to do it this way. It's like, no, it happens, and
I was like 15 and I had just come off of like touring the country. And I came back and I was like a sophomore in high school, but I had just done all of this stuff. And I thought, excuse my language, but I thought I was the hot, So like for me, that's just like, I thought no one could touch me. period. But the truth was that I wasn't even close to like,
Yeah.
really as what I became,
And the older you get, the more perspective you get on it. I came back and luckily I jumped right into the show, and I was kind of, you end up being behind when you first get back from your marching band show. Cause like you said earlier, you're jumping in, everyone else is 2 weeks ahead of you. So you're just kind of learning at a really fast pace, but because you've done that all summer, it's not bad.
No.
And then, some people care about it. Some people want to know about it. Some people will talk to you about it. And then some people are just like, man, this guy always wants to talk about drum corps.
Rip, like not even getting to the like, damn, this guy did drum corps, like whatever, he's a jerk. And it's just like we didn't even have a conversation.
And that's honestly just a sad reality about some people do that. Some people do go back to their home programs and they go back to wherever they're at and they just think they're the stuff. And yes, it's an awesome experience and you learned a lot and you're probably better because of it. But with the foresight you don't have is that your band director or your band program probably does things differently because the situation's different. You don't live in a world where you can rehearse 12 hours a day. You live in a world where you get maybe an hour-long band class once a day and maybe a couple hours after school if your band even does that. Right. And so the level of musicianship you get and the level of excellence you get in the summer, and like while we strive for that in the high school world, it's just not attainable with the in drum corps world, you have a section tech for your instrument and you have a visual tech for your section. Yep. And a lot of programs, especially the smaller schools, you only have the band director and maybe another staff member or two
other guys.
Maybe.
Like, yeah.
And it's like it's just a different world, it's a different experience. And when you come back from drum corps and you don't have to be worried about in the staff's perspective and the staff's eyes. Yeah. It's very easy. You don't get much feedback. You don't get you're doing fine. You're not the dumpster fire trying to be put out right now. The dumpster fire is the flutes that can't get their feet in time and are marching polyrhythm. So I think if I could give any advice to any future or any current high school students that are going to march drum corps or coming back to the programs, just come back with an appreciation for what you've done. Yeah. And take that appreciation and keep in touch with your people you marched with. Yep. And just appreciate your home program for what it is and that it got you to be able to where you were able to go march drum corps. Yep. I think a lot of people, when they get to that point, forget that they are where they're at and they got to do what they do because of the program that they grew up in. And they come home and think the house, they're bigger than their home. And,
like, no, you came from here,
Yeah, you came from here. Do what you can to help make it better. If your band directors are, can utilize you in a way to be a good leader, to be sometimes like a junior staff member. Like I've seen some programs use their kids that go march drum corps to be field techs while they're marching. Doesn't happen everywhere. Depends on the school. But if you're in a lucky enough situation where you can help, be an asset and be able to be helpful. But if that's not what your band program needs, then just do your job. Yep. Show up to rehearsals, play your part, march your show. Keep your opinions to yourself about drum corps. If people want to talk about them. But if people don't want to hear you, have a good time. Appreciate high school band for what it is. And drum corps and high school band are so similar, but oh my God, they're so different.
They're so different.
Oh my God.
It's like such a high, enjoy the fact that it's not high intensity 12 hours a day.
Enjoy the time with your friends. Enjoy the memories you'll make at the competitions. Yeah. But realize drum corps and high school band, while they are close, are two different worlds of marching band.
You paid thousands of dollars to go out and tour the country for 3. You paid to go out there and do that. Like there are some kids who their parents are like, you should go do this because it'd be a great chance to make some friends and all that. Yep. And some kids are just like, I don't want to be here. My parents made me be here, And my biggest thing that I look back on in any perspective that I have about my time was just having fun and just enjoying it for what it is and being patient with everybody around you. Because for me, I pushed myself so hard at a young age that I became very impatient with everything around me because I pushed myself at such a young age. I had such a drive for all of that. And I went and wanted to accomplish as much as I could. So when I came back and I was like, we're not trying to do that. Like I remember after my first high school show back from my first summer, I came back and it was like first show, we maybe did a movement and a half, 2 movements, which was pretty good for high school.
Yeah.
And I come off the field and I'm like bawling. Crying. And like Joe Sparks comes up to me. He's like, dude, what the hell's the problem? I'm like, we suck. I'm like, we're sitting here and we're fine. We're going to put up our uniforms and everything. And you guys are okay with that? And he's like, you're not out there anymore. I'm like, he's like, you got to take 2 breaths and realize you're not on tour anymore. Like it is not.
It's hard. It's hard for kids to come back, especially if they don't have someone like Joe Sparks at their program that has marched drum corps that can tell you like, hey man, take a step back, breathe.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's fine. It's just band. It really is just band. So shout out Joe Sparks. He was a good dude.
Shout out Joe Sparks. Absolutely. So moving on into that 2014 season, we've kind of bounced back and forth here, but what made you ultimately go back to Colts? Was it just like how good that first year was? And it's like, all right, sign on for year 2.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I didn't really have any prospects to want to go march any other drum corps at that time. I had marched my one season. Like, I like this. I'll go back for again. I'll go again. And, just kind of same thing kind of deal. Went to December camp, got the contract. Everything was smooth sailing. Like, all right, I'm going to march round 2. And the difference, like I said earlier, was that this time around we did do video assignments. We had, I think if I remember, we did 1 assignment between camps, which for me was like, oh, I have homework for drum corps. This sucks.
Oh no!
And now seeing what I do for kids and the teaching now, we have weekly assignments or daily assignments. I'm like,
and then you went to Crown and had like 5 a week.
Yeah, man. We'll get there, I'm sure. But the one assignment between camps was just, oh my God, do I even want to do this? Is this worth it? Of course I did them. They weren't hard. It was just like just stay on top of your stuff. You're fine.
Yeah.
But no, going to that second season was a lot of fun. I kind of, again, went in blind, not knowing much still about drum corps and not really having a full perspective on it. But good summer. The show was fun. Getting to do that Dark Side of the Rainbow show. So marched with a couple good friends that I still keep in touch with. I don't really remember a lot of people from my rookie season. That was a big age-out class and a bunch of older people, a bunch of rookouts from that 2013 season. 2014 was a group of really young marchers, and so
dude, I felt like the complete opposite. I was going to ask. I was like, this seems like a big vet retention year for the way.
Oh no!
The way that this show is designed and the way it was kind of pulled off, I was like, this sounds like a more veteran group.
No, and I think that's a testament to the staff and how hard the staff worked to teach us that summer.
Wow.
That second year Viz team and that first year brass team really taught their butts off and made that Colts horn line really good at moving and really good at playing. We were 0.1 out of finals that summer. So,
dude,
it's a bummer. It's a bummer. We were so close.
Such a good show.
I think I've seen it on discussion boards and Reddit posts, but people are like, what are your favorite shows that didn't make finals or like we're close to making finals? And I see Colts 2014. 14. So, when
I started marching, that was like people's favorite show. My C partner, Dylan Ryder, I remember he like every day, like when we do like member introductions or we just like be like shooting the shit on the road, he would just be like, dude, Colts 14 is my favorite show. Like I'll argue with everybody on this bus. And like he marched for like 6 years, like every single year, even in 2019, he's like, Colts 14 is the best show ever. And he's like, I will argue with everybody on this bus right now.
The big thing we talked about that summer was like, this is like a top 6 caliber design idea in a 15th place drum corps, which is why we ended up getting 13th. So
it's like, what are we going to do with it though? Like is like the coolest challenge of like, we have a really great design here and we're trying to like go with the rest of the activity, pushing it forward. What are you going to do with that? And we tried. As a younger
I will
group,
say we tried.
you guys did more than just try. You guys did a fantastic job. Honestly, watching back for so much of that. And I got to say, like, if I can just pull up, I'll do a little screen share here, but something I like watched getting ready for this interview. And what was your brass caption head's name again? I don't know if this is him in the video or not. This might be him in this video. I kind of just want to play this because I think like I wrote a little note after I watched this and I was just like, I don't know his name. I don't know if this is your brass caption head, but like I would run through a wall for this dude after like hearing what he had to say. I'm gonna pull this up here. Let's see. Screen share.
I think it's the video I think you're gonna share. I think it's our brass caption head.
This one? It's called Keep It Up?
Yep. I remember this night. Yep, that's Jason.
You guys should be very, very proud of the work that you put in. because I'm telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and just the amount of improvement in just this week.
And this is like the beginning of San Antonio, right?
Yeah, this was the push into Texas tour. This was a big hype speech.
Just keep taking care of this. Keep the butter knife in the air.
That was a big thing the rest of the season. Keep that butter knife in the air.
Digging it, which is fine. That's kind of our job this summer. Because nobody was expecting this drum corps to be in the mix at all, period. Keep it up. Keep it up. Rehearsals like tonight, the work that we've done the last, month and a half, it's almost over. We're getting to the point in the season where when we hit things, it might be the last time.
Taking me back,
From
man.
San Antonio until
the
end of the year, it goes
people.
like that. Like that. Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open.
Yep.
Check
San
each
Antonio.
other out. When you're feeling some low energy, just look around.
Oh, you know that push. You know that walk up the spiral staircase in San Antonio.
Oh, it sucks.
Oh,
okay,
awful.
listen.
Awful. It's freaking 100 freaking degrees.
It sucks.
We were in those all black uniforms doing our lot in the freaking blistering hot
and your
sun.
shoes are melting to the concrete in the parking lot.
San Antonio, the show itself is so hype. But
it's so hype because it's the first regional.
Everything else coming about it is.
You take one step off the bus and you're like, I feel the sweat, just like,
yep, it just cakes on you.
You start walking in the lot and you're like, why are my feet burning? This feels hot. I don't like this with my feet. And then also, like, if you have props, like going in to that, like it's a ramp down, so you got to like go behind, keep everything up. But the push out of there is what sucks every single time getting out of there.
Awful. I love the San Antonio show, one of my favorites. But
love it though, love it. I think that's basically the gist of it. But like, I mean, I pulled that up because it's just like moments like those are like watching that brought me back to like my time when I was marching as well. And it's just like moments like that where you can have, I don't know, it's just moments like that in a tour where tour can seem so long at times. And you have moments like that and you hear something like that from your staff where it's just like, hey man, like no one expected us to be here, but you guys are doing a hell of a job and you should be proud of yourselves. And you got to keep it up every single day. And you're like, well, yes, I will be here. Like I'm ready to go tomorrow. I will
more band. Give me all the reps. Give me all. Give me it. I will say at that point, the funny thing about that butter knife comment, that became like a trope that we did the whole summer. Keep that butter knife in the air, and we missed finals by 0.1. And so when we were all talking about going back for 2015, someone photoshopped a 0.1 and then made it the one of butter knife, and everyone made it to the cover photo.
Oh, yes,
it's pretty hype. It's pretty hype.
That's all the hype you need. You're like, all right, cool. We're keeping it in the air. 15. Let's run it back. Let's run it back, dude. At that point, is that kind of when you guys found out that like we have a shot to make a push and like make some history here?
Yeah. So like we had, the staff was very much like, hey, just keep your nose to the grindstone. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just trust the process. But I remember that night was very much a, hey, you guys are in this mix, like he was saying,
we're doing it.
Nobody expects you to be here, and you're in the talks. You are in that grouping of judges where they're comparing you to Crossman, they're comparing you to the Troopers, they're comparing you in that grouping of like 12th, 13th, and 14th. I don't know if you know much about like the judging system, but like the neighborhoods, they won't judge you much outside of your neighborhoods. And like so getting into an upper neighborhood, like we'll talk about the S word later.
But no, I knew you were going to say something like that because
it's real. I mean, it's a part of the judging system, and part of how you move up in the drum corps rankings is you have to beat the people in your neighborhood. You've got to beat the people, and you've got to beat them by a lot. You can be 5 points better than them on the sheets. But if you're not beating them consistently head to head on the night to night basis, you're not going to move up because there's
especially when you're at the same show. When you're at the same show as them too, like
it has to be an undeniable difference to move up to the next neighborhood.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's fun when you get to San Antonio and you kind of see where those neighborhoods are stacking up.
Yep,
it's cool to see. Like I was so excited to talk about that because I was just like, man, like. That being the time that you guys found out, what's kind of the mentality for the rest of the season at that point when you're like, oh wait, we have a shot, we have a chance to do this? Like, what's
every day became a okay. This show has the legs. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to make it? Are we going to be stuck on mental errors? Are we going to be stuck on putting our horns up together? What are we going to choose? You're going to choose to either be great and do this, or you're going to choose to, choose to keep doing what you're doing. And so, being a very young group, it mentally was a little too much for some people. Some people definitely broke under that and couldn't keep up with the pressure. And
yeah, it's tough.
It was tough, especially with that show. It was a very high demand show, both visually and musically. And, I think had that horn line been a year older, like if that show was redone in 2015, I think it would have made finals.
I think so too. Yeah. I absolutely think so too. I think like how much of that, like, that's another thing I wanted to talk about was like how much of the having a older, mature line, but also like the whole vet retention thing, how important is that to a core? You're teaching at one of those cores now who like had to build that foundation to get to where they are now, and they're reaping the benefits of that. How important is that in that range to have a group that's more like maybe like an older group, but also just like that vet retention right there? How important at that level?
Yeah, so like the age thing is definitely a big factor. Having to deal with a high school student marching in a drum corps versus a college student marching in a drum corps, it's just a different time of life. College, you're being more independent, you're being more on your own, you're figuring out more. A lot of the people that end up going to march drum corps tend to be music majors or continue to play into college. So they're a little bit more serious about what they do. And sometimes the high schoolers, they come in just wanting to do band and they're really good at their instrument and they're just not super ready mentally for the game of drum corps, Yeah. And so that even that 1 year difference, a senior in high school versus a freshman in college are two very different people. I don't know how you feel about your transition but like I am a different person, lives. 2 different lives. Yeah. So
that, like, I remember when I did my, like after my senior year, I graduated high school, I go do Blue Nights 2019 and I do that. And then I remember, COVID happens and everything. So the break happens and whatnot, but I come back and I'm a junior in college and I go to audition camp and I'm the section leader at this camp and I step in and I'm just like, yeah, this is a different life. I was like, this is not, I'm
not the same person even year to year.
I'm trying to think of everything because I'm sitting there on Friday night and Saturday during the day. I'm like, what's the difference? What happened? Something about the magic and everything. I'm just like, what? I'm like, oh, you're older. Everything, like you've been around this thing since you're a little older now. So it's just like, absolutely. It's just 2 different perspectives there.
So the age is a big deal. And then vet retention, the biggest thing there is just having a standard set. And having, especially if you have the staff that keeps staying and having a consistent year-to-year staff where the standard doesn't change and the vets know what the standard is and can kind of help the rookies and whoever else is joining to uphold that standard. Yep. Coming into a drum corps where the vet retention rate was not very high. We walked into the 2021 Troopers season and the brass roster that they gave us was 15 kids. And 4 of them, I think 5 of them were 2019 vets or older. So 11 of those 15 were like rookies for the would-be 2020 season.
Oh my God.
It was, yeah. And
that's what you started with?
That's what we started with coming in September of 2020. Yeah, and we'll touch more on Trooper stuff later, but just talking about vet retention, even from the Colts world. Going into that 2015 season, I didn't march that season. I had to take off that summer for financial and personal reasons. I wish I would have marched. Good show, great drum corps. But that 2015 season was carried by veteran membership and people coming back and trying to build something. And, I talked about this a lot my first couple of years at Troopers, first couple of years at Colts. And whenever you're trying to build something and trying to make something great of something that's not currently great, it takes a team dedicated effort of I'm going to keep coming back because I want to build something. And, having gone to another drum corps, I kind of, there were parts of me that like, what if I stayed at Colts? What if I came back and was Tuba Sec? What if I helped build the Colts into what they are now? How would I feel? I was super happy when the Colts made finals last year and I'm still stoked for them. But like, had I marched my rest of my career at Colts, I would have probably felt a little deeper pride in seeing where they are now. Because it's really exciting where they're at now. I'm happy for them. But I feel totally different if I spent 5 years there,
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely. But hey, man, things shake out in certain ways. Life changes in certain ways, and it's just like, hey, you still gave 2 years to him at the end of the day, so it's still like, hey, man,
it's a good
like
time. I
that's
enjoyed my
incredible.
2 years. I met a lot of awesome people. That
Yeah.
2014 group was special. A lot of those
Hmm.
people in that drum corps went on to march other drum corps, and
Hmm.
so getting to keep those connections. A lot of Cavaliers, a lot of Phantom Regiment people.
Hell
But
yeah.
we all go back to like, yeah, Colts was a formative place for us at the time, and
Hmm.
I think for them, it really panned out to where they got a lot of veteran retention in those next few years, 2018,
Yeah.
19.
Hmm.
And then they had a really good COVID season. 2022 was an awesome show, and they had a lot of vets that were aging out,
Just killing it.
and they're killing it.
Absolutely killing it. Absolutely. With this show, I mentioned I mentioned the narrator earlier. I think you said his name was Bobby. Yes.
Yeah, Bobby. Yep, Bobby Duncalf.
Dude, hell yeah. I wrote down because once I remember what the show was, I was like, dude, can we get that guy on the show too? Because I could have a heyday asking him a million questions about that season, just what that was like for him. But like
Yeah.
in your perspective, what was that like? Was he rehearsing with the drum corps? Like, what was that rehearsal situation like with you guys?
So I'm gonna try to. It's way back in there. I'm gonna try to pull it out and remember. But I
Yeah, a
remember
long time ago.
Bobby was actually a front ensemble vet. He had played
Huh?
marimba in 2013. I can't remember if he had marched any years before that, but he marched the previous year for sure. And when they, had auditions for the role, when they decided the show,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of had him in mind already because I believe he was a theater major. I forget where he went to school,
Oh,
but he had already had acting experience and had stage presence experience.
that
And
helps.
so whenever they were putting the show in mind, they kind of had him in mind as well. And I don't know if you know the name Wayne Harris. He's a pretty big consultant designer in DCI, WGI, but
I don't think so. No.
his big thing is storytelling and how to tell a
Mm-hmm.
story and how to be a character and how to
Yeah.
get into character. And so I remember they brought in Wayne to kind of help us as the drum corps to get into our character in that show. And he did a lot of one-on-one time with Bobby, and like his sectional time was just one-on-one with Wayne Harris for like a week straight.
Wow.
And so there were times when we were like, whenever we had brass block, yeah, Bobby's not there. Bobby's working with Wayne, but there were ensemble rehearsals were a lot with Bobby, and because he was doing it live every time, it wasn't recorded and you hit the play button. It was him
He's doing it live.
trying to nail the inflection every time, trying to nail the timing. So he had to rep just as much as us to really nail his part, and he killed it.
Yeah.
He's so
Oh,
good.
absolutely.
I still think about that opening hit and
Yeah.
the foolish miscalculation. Still in my brain. It's like etched in there. I hear his voice.
It's so good. It's so perfect. Like every single part when he comes in, I'm like, perfectly timed, perfectly placed.
Yep.
It just all like, it was so good. And I just remember falling in love with that show because I was just like, this is so cool. This is so much different. I never thought I would see something like this in drum corps. So that was just like,
awesome.
once I was like, dude, yes, have to talk about that. Absolutely.
You know where the original idea for the Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz came from, right?
I don't know, but I was gonna guess. I was like, is this like a spin-off, like Dark Side of like Wizard of Oz show?
Yeah, so it actually goes back to like an urban legend about I forget what the exact scenario was, but some people that like to enjoy a certain plant would like to put on Pink Floyd and watch movies.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Try to see what the movie would look
Trying
like.
to see the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, and so the story goes that they were doing that, watching movies while listening to Pink Floyd, and they started listening to Dark Side of the Rainbow at the same time as the movie, and the way the songs transitioned and lined up with the scenes in the movie, lined up perfectly. And like I remember one of the songs said something about changing color, and if in Wizard of Oz, when the changes from the grayscale to the color, it lines up with the lyrics in the song. And when they were like going down the yellow brick road, they were talking about like the travels and the journey or whatever the song was about.
Oh my God.
The song Money by Pink Floyd, you know that song?
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever they got to Emerald City, that song was playing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's just like a bunch of crazy coincidences about that album lining up with the movie. And so they took that inspiration for that urban legend and
make it a show.
Made a show.
Okay, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's sick.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my God.
Whenever they were telling us about it in the preseason, I was just like, this is
gonna be the coolest
really
thing ever.
Dope. Really dope.
This is gonna be sick. This is gonna be.
And
really
it was,
cool.
and it turned out to be a really awesome show with really great design. And the ending. Did you understand the ending when you watched the show? Like, did you get what it was happening?
Right off the top of my head, no. Like I've watched it like the past like 3-4 days, but like right now off the top of my head, I can't
Yeah. So
remember.
the ending goes with the Scarecrow Bobby going into a monologue. I think it's a Shakespeare monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And that part was recorded because he was actually changing back into the Scarecrow costume, or changing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
The OG one, not the business suit one that he wore for the whole show. So while that's happening, he's changing into the Scarecrow costume, and the horn line and battery are making a drill shape that is supposed to be like the yellow brick road. So as the outro is happening, he's skipping down the yellow brick road, and then that little color guard girl that was following him around the whole show, that was supposed to be like his sidekick or his henchman or whatever, ends up wearing the crown that he was wearing and putting on the tux, and she's sitting in the throne.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Okay, so Colts 2014 is top 5 show of all time. Let's just put that out there right now. I don't think I've ever
It's
heard
really
any other
cool.
show
There's a lot of
that
Easter
elaborate.
eggs, unless like you talk to someone that marched there.
It's in my top 5 now.
Yeah, it's just
in
so
my
many
top
little
5.
intricacies. And there's actually one of my favorite things about that show, watching it back. Whoever was recording at the time, I think it was back in that time, it was still DCI was recording their own stuff.
Yep. Yeah, they were doing their own stream.
On the semifinals recording, there's a part between the second movement and the ballad where they go into Great Gig in the Sky.
Yes.
Play this little transition music, Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead.
Yep.
So while that's happening, it kind of fades to gray, like they turn the grade scale on, and they go down this little drill set, and the sidekick girl like goes up and finds this box, and in the box is a pair of the ruby red slippers that Dorothy had. And so what DCI did is when they opened the box and pulled out the red slippers, they had it changed from black and white to color.
Oh, okay. Because wait, I was just watching the show and I noticed that all of a sudden the color started changing, and I was like, "Is this someone like? Did someone go in and do the editing for this? Because like the color changes."
And that was on the semifinals DVD.
Okay, so you're just making a better case for it to be top 5.
It's pretty cool. We didn't ask them to do that. That wasn't like planned. Like,
because I'm watching that, I was gonna ask about it, but I was like, no, that's probably a stupid question.
No, I remember watching it post season. I was like, wait, did they do it? They did. It's on the DVD, sealed forever in time. DCI
did put you in finals.
Right. We were on the cover of the semifinals DVD, so it's fine, I guess. Being on the cover of the DVD is not as cool as being on the finals DVD, though.
Real. Very real. Very, very real.
It's a good season.
Absolutely.
Love
it. Going into that like finals week, just to kind of cap off 2014, when you guys get to semifinals and the scores come out and everything, and you find out that you missed it by 0.1. Yeah. What's the reactions from everybody? It's gotta be obvious, but I'm curious to know what that's like.
It was tough, and we were all kind of on the edge of our seats, like hoping for it. And, the scores from prelims were not looking super hopeful. Like, we're like, maybe there's a chance. Depends on what the semifinals panel thinks. And, we were ready for it. It's a really good possibility it could happen. And I remember I was in the stadium, I think with my mom. She was there to visit, to see semifinals, because that was the guaranteed show for us,
Yeah.
So I remember sitting with her, and they're sitting, I think it was right after one of those top 9, 12, 11, 10 place scores where they finally announced the 13, 14, 15. And I remember just sitting there, and they're announcing, and I'm like, okay, 15th place. I don't remember. I think it was Pacific Crest that year. 14th place.
Yeah, something like that.
Troopers. So we beat Troopers. Yeah. 13th place with a score of whatever it was, the Colts.
Yeah. And you're just like, oh, no. But then to see the breakdown.
Well, and then they announced the Crossman, and I wasn't like, at that point I was like, damn, we're out. I didn't realize that. And then they put up like the scores on the big screen, and I look at it, the big Jumbotron and Lucas Oil. I look up, and I see like whatever 80 something 0.1 and then 80 something 0.2. And I was 0.1 away, man.
what even goes into the 0.1? Like you just wonder sometimes when you just sit there and look at you like, what went into that?
What immediately goes through my mind is like, I don't know about you, but I immediately like, what could I have done better? What
Yeah, if I'm a member, I probably was like, what did I mess up?
Yeah, how could this have happened to be 0.1 out? And ultimately there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes for scoring and stuff that is not talked about, that will never see the light of day beyond the judges that were in the box that day or on the field that day. But
absolutely.
I think had we just been a little bit better of a horn line, a little bit better of a drum corps, and been undeniable, there was a chance. I don't think our semifinals run was undeniable, though. That's
respectable.
I think the youngness of the drum corps kind of cracked under the pressure a little bit, and I remember talking after the show like that wasn't our best guys,
That wasn't the one.
That wasn't the one, and in that moment you're like, dang it,
and so much of it too can be like,
for me, I was like, I feel like I did everything I could. I feel like it's out of my hands. I feel like I executed to the best of my ability, and I tried to, think about what things I could have done differently and all. But I was like, at the end of the day, it is what it is, and
cards fall.
The cards fall how the cards fall, and I still appreciate the hell out of that summer. And people have met along the way, and a lot of good friends from that summer still. And it's a good time.
Hell of a show. Top 5 show. Let's just put that down. If anyone's got a top 5, you need to put Colts 2014 in your top 5. I'm putting it in mine now. It's going in mine. We'll do a top 5 someday, and it will be in there.
It's definitely a cool show. If you haven't seen it, I totally recommend. It's a lot of heart and soul went into that show. So
I mean, hey, the full show's out there. How rare is it to see the full show on YouTube?
You can find some cake recipes out there that I'm sure you can have it.
You can find some really great bakeries out there.
Yeah, some bakeries have that show. You can go find that out.
Dude, the moment when they figured out how to like cheat the system, I was like, yes, keep doing it. Keep doing it. DCI didn't say that. I did not say that.
Didn't say it at all. Nope.
Copyright.
I don't know. Yeah, no.
I know copyright law.
Watch all your shows legally. And
I study copyright law. I know what's up.
Oh man.
Moving on in your career, we have a whole separate almost like career with Carolina Crown. How does that come into the picture for you?
Yeah. So I mentioned it earlier, but I took off the summer of 2015, personal reasons, financial reasons. And at that point, I had just finished up my freshman year of college. I was going in my sophomore year, and I had a really good buddy at the time that I had marched Colts with, actually, that was also at Missouri State with me. And, there comes a point in everyone's drum corps career or at their time where they're dreaming. Like, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? If you could march any drum corps, where would you march?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my friend. His name was Taylor at the time. And we were obsessed with Crown 2015, Inferno. We lived together at the time. We were roommates. And literally every single day in the living room, we were watching Inferno. Just like,
that's the one.
I want to do that. I need to be in that drum corps. I need to do this.
Yep.
And so me at the time, I was like, I took a year off from drum corps.
Yeah.
I'm a music major now. I'm doing music ed. I'm super busy. And I really do want to march again. I don't know if I'm Carolina Crown good. Like,
but also the workload too, to balance.
Well, I didn't even realize that at the time. And we'll get more on that workload for that corps. But just going into that, I was like, I don't think I'm good enough for Crown. Are you kidding me? Me doing that? No way. But he was super dead set on. He's like, dude, we have to go. We have to try. I was like, okay,
gotta try.
All right, if you go, I'll go. So we signed up that day, submitted our video auditions, like the screening, and I remember we recorded it in like one of the little side gyms at Missouri State, and they had like a portion of it that was like not music related or marching related at all. It was doing interpretive dance based off 3 of the following prompts. Whoa. And mine was like imagine you're in a rainstorm leaving your house. And I remember like I was wearing, I remember like I had a fake umbrella, and I was like holding the umbrella and it flies away. And I'm like wearing a hat, like I'm making my hat fly away and just trying to like cover myself with my, like, I don't even remember half of it. I remember doing
it in some gym. Someone walks in, they're like, "What is
stupid?" I felt so dumb, but I was like, "But this is what they're asking for, so I'm going to do it."
It's what I have to do.
We get our video call back, and we get invited to the camp, and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" I can't believe I even have a callback for Crown. I have to go now. And so we drive up. I'm from St. Louis. My friend Taylor was from Potosi or Camdenton. Sorry, he moved to Camdenton at that point. If you know where Camdenton's at, so he drove over to St. Louis, and my mom took us to the airport. We flew out to Fort Mill, and we did our December camp audition there. And I got a call back for the January camp, and I was stoked. And they're like, you're a great player, you're a decent marcher. You're a little overweight, gotta lose a couple pounds, you gotta get fit. And I was like, okay.
That happens with taking some time off, in college. Freshman
15, or at Missouri State, we called it the Missouri State 28. Those dining halls had such good food, man.
And it is real. It's happens.
So real.
It happens.
So that, with taking a summer off, I'm like, okay, if I can, shed a few pounds and really work on my visual, there's a good chance I could get a spot. And my friend also got a call back. And Crown does their audition process based off of different color teams that you're on.
Yeah,
so they have
heard about
the cream
that.
team and the purple team.
Yeah.
And so they kind of tell you where you're at throughout the audition process. Like, hey, you're a cream team Crown, you're a cream team brass, but you're purple team visual. And so my friend, I remember going to the camp, he was on cream team as a callback.
Yeah.
I was on purple team as a video audition. So we get to the camp, and they like, because there were so many people auditioning for Crown that season, they had to like do separate subsections because there just wasn't enough room in the school for everyone. So I remember they had like a cream team tuba sectional and a purple team tuba sectional. And at the time I was on purple team sectional, and I'm in that room with the purple team tubas. And
do you even know what that means at that point? Like when you're going in and you're like,
I was just like, I'm here at a Crown camp. I'm doing the thing. I didn't even know that was a thing. I remember reading it.
They told me I was purple.
All right, if you're purple team tubas, you're going that way. If you're cream team tubas, you're going whatever. So I'm in that room and I'm just playing and I'm nailing everything because I'm an okay tuba player. And I remember the tech coming up to me and he's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, I'm Andrew. I'm Andrew Reeder's like, "And you're on purple team?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is what I got told after my video." It's just like,
"That's what I'm here."
Okay, let me go talk with someone real quick. And I remember they pulled me out of that room and they took me to the other room. And they're like,
"You're gonna stay here.
You're gonna be right here for right now." I was like, "Okay." And I remember like the noticeable difference because, the first camp for a lot of those top 6 cores, that's just like a bunch of people go. Like, even if they don't think they're gonna make it or if they're gonna be like the best,
they want to go
go for the experience. Yeah, which is totally valid and totally awesome. And
you should.
You should. I totally recommend getting out to some of those drum cores to experience and see what it's like. But so I remember getting moved to the other room, and I was like, okay, I definitely noticed there's a big difference in ability and skill here. And even in that room, they're like, okay, you're pretty good, man. So, visual has always been my weakest thing. Being a bigger dude, I had my issues with marching and whatever. And I remember going to the Vis block, and they're like, okay, you've got some stuff to work with.
Work with it.
And so I leave that camp on cream team brass, purple team visual, and my friend ends up purple team on both. Like he went into cream team on both and ended up being purple team. He was a mellophone auditionee, and you know how intense those mellophone auditions are at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. High brass land is so like
Jesus, dude. It's cutthroat, man.
I was just about to say cutthroat, but I didn't want to make it sound like crazy. But some of the top eight like trumpet auditions are crazy. Like when I was a young kid going in there with like college kids, because that's mainly who's going to be there at those like top 8
and not just college kids, it's like kids that are going to like performance
majors who go to like the best performance schools,
like
by
Texas
the way,
high schoolers that have been taking private lessons for 10 years,
20 years old. They go to IU for music performance. You're like, I'm fucked. Like, I'm done. Like there's no way.
That realization that you're in that room with those people like that, and you're like, okay, maybe I'm good enough for this.
And so I
remember talking with my friend after the camp, and I was like, "Hey man, like, what are you thinking?" He's like, I don't think it's worth going back for that. I got a call back, but I'm on purple team for both. I don't know. I'm probably not going to go. And I was like, well, I got a pretty good callback, and like they said I have a pretty good shot, so I'm going to try to go for this. He's like, all right, man, you go for it.
On your side too. Like when they look at the sheet and they're like, you've done 2 years already.
2 years,
we can trust you.
I've done 1 year, but had taken 2 years off, so he was like kind of out of the game a little bit. So, So I went back for that January camp, and I actually started off the camp pretty well. Felt really solid. Went into my OTM audition, did really well. Felt pretty solid about it.
Yeah.
And those crown camps are super intense, and they're very particular about everything, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Why crown is where it's at brass wise.
Mm-hmm.
And super intense weekend, a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of more people. And at the end of the camp, they're like, all right, the following people come talk to Matt and whoever else was with him at the time. Come talk to. Yep. So they pull out, they like say the names, and they like divide us into these 3 groups. And they're calling out the names, and they call out the people that are like for sure getting cut. Like, okay, yeah, those are the people that are getting cut. And then I don't hear my name, and I'm like, okay.
I love these parts of like the story of getting contracted, because it's like
you just remember it. You're just like,
someone walks in with a laptop in their hand. Always. You're always
in
like the last block, you're in brass, and someone walks in with a laptop, and they start like, with the laptop, they start going under each caption, and they're like,
yep. Still happens. It's awesome.
And then goes to like brass, and it's like, and then like all of a sudden it's like, all right, stop everything. And it's like in the middle of whatever you're doing. It's like, okay. And then like, yeah, no, continue, because it's just like, hearing you say that, I start thinking about, I thought the same way. Like, you're like, okay.
Yep. So that first round of people gets called out to go talk, and they come back and their heads are hung low, and they're definitely like, oh man, damn. And so they call the next group, and they're calling out some people that are like middle of the pack. They're like, okay, I thought they were okay. And I didn't get called for that group. And I was like, oh, maybe I have this all backwards. Like maybe this is the contract group, and that was something else.
I just got,
I don't know. I don't know. And so they call those people back, and they come back, and they're smiling, and I'm like, okay, all right. So they call the next group in with like all the people that are like super solid and some vets. And I was like, I hear my name, and I'm like,
vets, I think
okay,
I did it.
I think I did it. And they call us over, and we're into the room, and they're like, okay, everyone that's here, we're going to be offering you a contract. Here's your paperwork. We'll get you signed up. You take it home, send it back to us. And I remember they sent everyone else out of the room except for me and like 2 other dudes. And like, we want to talk to you 2 real quick. I was like, okay.
Whoa.
Like, we want to offer you a contract, but for right now, it's going to be an alternate spot. I was like, okay. So what does that mean? It's like, well, you'll come to all the camps. You'll do all the things. You'll be a full member of the horn line, a full member of the drum corps. But for right now, you don't have a spot in the field. And if someone goes down, or if someone quits, you're the next in line. So I think leaving that camp, I was tuba number 17. So
out of, did you guys do 16?
I think they contracted 18 at that camp. So yeah, 16, 16 tubas. And so I leave that camp being tuba number 17, got my contract. I'm like, all right, cool. There's still a chance. We'll take that. We take those. And so I go in the rest of the off season, just busting my butt and just working as hard as I can. And we get to like the March or the April camp, and I forget their names, but it was this 2 set of twins from like Oregon that were like flying across the country to get to South Carolina. And they're just like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. We need to bail. They had spent so much money. So 2 dudes were out. So I moved up to tuba number 15, got my spot.
And it's like, that's the thing, like, honestly, advice for people out there who I've never been in the situation, but like I've seen friends of mine who end up in that alternate status, and like, especially if you get an alternate contract in that January, in that January month, in that February month, even if you get another, like sometimes people have been invited to another callback where they have to go, get it at February because it's that competitive in that season, and like stick with it, because you never know what's going to happen. In 2019 with the Blue Knights, we contracted, I think, 30 for a 25 person line. And I think before day 1 of move-ins, we lost 5 or 6 trumpets right before then. So it's just like all those people who were sitting on the outside, we had to call people. We're like, hey, I remember you were like right there. Come on. Because it's just like life happens. People have to make changes. Some things happen to people. So it's just like, honestly, if you do get something like that, don't be discouraged. Definitely stick with it.
Oh, for absolutely. Sure. I mean, just in my last 3 seasons teaching troopers, every single kid that we brought in as an alternate ended up at a spot on the field in some way, shape, or form. So alternate spots are a great thing. And I think for people that aren't quite ready for a full field spot, still following through with that, and you're there for a reason, whether it's an alternate or a field spot. You are there because you belong and you deserve to be there.
You earn that.
You earn that spot. And so I had a friend that I marched with in Crown 16, He ended up being an alternate in the baritone section, and his summer didn't quite turn out the way he had hoped. He ended up being an alternate all season, never made it on the field. But he was so valuable to the team because he ended up being like an assistant to the drum majors. He would like run gawk block and like put the met in their ears and stuff and help out. He was the ultimate OG team player, and ended up coming back for 17, earned a spot, and then he marched for 4 more years and was a killer baritone player.
And what a story that is, right there.
Like seriously, Kyle, if I don't know if you watch these, but Kyle Helmrich, if you were watching this, dude, you're the
absolutely
man.
Dude, shout out Kyle, bro. That's a hell of a story right there.
The alternate position, I think, gets a lot of flack sometimes because like, oh, you didn't make it, you're only an alternate. It's like, no, man, like those alternates are definitely they're still good enough to be there. They get a contract for a reason. It's just
they could take your spot today.
And it happens. It really does.
It could happen. I've watched it happen.
Yeah. If you're
people who thought they could just like, oh, I don't have to do anything. It's like, no, your spot could get taken today.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, man,
it'll be gone.
No, if you end up in a position where you get an alternate contract, take it, march it, do whatever you can, be the ultimate team player like Kyle, or just keep working your butt off, and you'll be lucky enough to end up in a spot. You know, it's awesome.
You never know what could happen.
Don't take it as an alternate is a bad thing, because it is such a good thing for the drum corps and for you as a learner and a marcher.
Absolutely. Something I was curious about, and this is another one of those full circle moments that I was talking about in the beginning of the episode, but hearing now from Keith Ty, who we've had on the podcast, and Taylor Womack, who we've had on the podcast, both marched with you in 2016. Those guys marched in 15 and 14. So they had been there, and then, 15 happens. And I've talked about it before, just the way that finals week happened in 2015, and just hearing from both of them, the stories of the vets there just being like, no, this cannot happen. Not again. It cannot be this way again. And like, it just like hearing from them, there was a big vet retention of people who were just like, we have to right the wrong this year, and we're going to do it together. And we're not going to let our team down, So I was curious, what was that like for you coming in your first year to Crown?
Yeah.
And all of this prior stuff that's been happening, you're finding out about, you're like, oh, this is more than just like another drum corps season. This is a shot at righting the wrong.
Yeah. So coming into that season was a big, Harloff was really pushing the horn line to be ready to go day one, and just constant, think about what happened last season. Think about what could have been. Remember what that's like. And a lot of us rookies were like, yeah, we saw from as an outsider perspective. Crown got robbed a little bit, but some people, depending on who you asked, they didn't have the best run finals night, which I've heard from people. I've also heard, they should have won. I think they should have won. My favorite show, second favorite show of all time.
I think they should have too. And I think, hey, my opinion, our opinions here. Listen, also my favorite show. I'm not going to say that. My favorite show that summer might be at that point in time, at that age, that was my favorite show that summer was Crown 2015. As I got older, Coats 15 ended up becoming my favorite show.
Dude, underrated show. Love
very underrated.
Noise. Funny, I actually during the summer, I went to the Warrensburg show in 2015 because I had the summer off. I liked Blue Coats more at that time. And I almost auditioned for Blue Coats instead, but my friend
crazy
wanted to do Crown, so I was like, I'll do Crown. I like Inferno. So going into that 2016 season, he was really pushing hard, like, hey, there's an opportunity here for us to come back and really do something here. And they were writing the show to be about revenge and vengeance and righting the wrong. And I'm sure you heard from Taylor and Keith about how the whole design and process of the storyline was about the show. The character has his father murdered on the stagecoach. And it's the quest for vengeance and the quest for righting wrong, which is the inspiration from 2015 finals. So that going into that, and that was the idea, the relentless pursuit of vengeance. Yeah. And so Medea's Dance of Vengeance was obviously the opener. Killer. Holy cow.
192 opener.
Yep. Star 93 opener. Crazy. I remember Matt posting every single day for a month. Are you in 192 shape? Are you ready to march 192 for 6 minutes? Are you in 192? It's going to go 6 minutes of 192. And I remember it can't be that bad. I got my ass handed to me that summer.
Every day.
I remember like going back and looking at my postseason picks now, like the body by drum corps pictures. That was the skinniest I've been in my entire life. Shout out
dude,
Leon
192
May
for that one.
Shout out Leon May for that crazy drill. Oh my God, he had us running, booking everywhere.
Especially
man.
that opener right off the bat. I mean, you have.
I'm sure you heard from Keith about his opener.
Oh yeah, no, and I've also
You've seen the video.
seen and have heard from him as well. He had like the hardest.
Yeah,
like, I'm watching him
man.
and picking him out. I'm like, dude, he had the hardest.
He had the hardest
in
spot.
that opener.
I don't know if he mentioned this, but I remember them having a conversation with Keith, like, "Hey man, we can move you to an easier dot. Like, you're an Ageout. You've been with us for a while. We can move you." And Keith was like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna march the spot."
That's not Keith, bro. Keith will do that.
He's gonna
stand on business.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna stand on business.
Yeah,
dude.
man. No, Keith's awesome. Keith's so cool. I really enjoyed marching with him, seeing his journey through Blue Knights and Cavaliers and stuff. He's really great. I had a really tough time as a rookie member just because, like you were saying, there's a whole bunch of veteran members and a lot of people that were out for blood. A lot of people that were like, we are making this season the best. We are going to do the thing. And I knew what I was getting myself into, but I also didn't because I didn't realize the level of intensity of the people in the drum corps. And had a lot of people that marched 12, 13, 14. A lot of people that were aging. People who had been there, had been through the ringer, had already won a ring, had already won Jim Otts. And here we are, these rookies, like not many of us. I think there was only like 4 rookies in the 16 tuba section of 16 people. Yeah. And we were just kind of like, oh my God, this is intense. It's super intense.
I was curious because obviously, I think across the board, wherever you are in drum corps, your spring training is going to have a level of intensity for everybody because you're trying to build a standard for the season. More importantly, when you get into tour with Carolina Crown, you've done 2 seasons with the Colts. You know what that's like being in that semifinalist atmosphere. Like you're trying to do your best. You're trying to do our best as a group. And like when that goal comes in sight, hey, let's push towards it, but also we got to make sure we're doing our best at the end of the day too. What's it like going to a Carolina Crown and then getting on tour with that group, especially what they had just come off of and what they're trying to achieve this summer? Yeah. What is that? What's the difference like in that regard?
I think the biggest thing for me going from a corps like the Colts as a high schooler and going to Crown as a college musician and music ed major was just like, the people I was marching with were just so mature and like, yes, obviously still drum corps people, so silly, goofy, but like some phenomenal, just play your butt off musicians, some fantastic future educators that they could play the snot out of their horn. And just like, you're just surrounded by, it being the best person in a section versus being the worst one in a section is a totally different feeling. Like I went from being like one of the top 3 or 4 tuba players at Colts to being like within the bottom 4, just ability wise. Like you're
hanging
crazy.
And you're like,
players.
I'm good, but they're like phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's just like, I've said previously in some other stories, I've always struggled visually. So that was my big focus to get improving on visually. And it's pretty good tuba player. I didn't really get cut off of many parts. And if I did, I worked my butt off to get put back on them, being watered off them just to clean. And
I mean, a Crown brass book is pretty like that's tough anyway. I mean, I think I got cut off of parts until I got to Blue Knights. Like to tell you the whole truth, like I used to get cut off of parts until I got to Blue Knights, and I was like, no, I got here, I will not get cut off of one. I was like, it will not be this year.
Yeah, and I remember getting cut off a few things, and I was like, oh, this is real. Like I'm not playing these parts because I'm not good enough, and having to just like the level of dedication the membership had to making the show the best possible. Like at Colts on meal breaks, nobody would practice. We would all enjoy our meals, relax. But like at Crown, people that every second of the day is repping something, whether it's music or vision. People are just on their horns, just playing. Is
that from like staff being like, come on, like you gotta like,
no, I mean, yes, the staff
members
encourage us to do that, but it was just like the membership driving itself to self clean and self motivate and just clean, just go. And having mini subsectionals and like, all right, tubas, we need you to get with your section leader and rep this. Like, they recommended it. We didn't have to do it because it was our meal time, but like we did because that's what we were out for. We were out for
leadership, taking initiative like that.
Yeah. And that was the big thing, like our section leaders at the Colts, they're great people, great, awesome people, more of like an older brother type, more of like, hey guys, let's do the thing. But the leadership at Crown was just so like, we're doing this because we're here. This is what we're here to do. And if you're not here to do this, you should leave. And obviously not that intense. And they didn't say that, but it was that was the expectation, you know. You're here because you want to win a gym. You're here because you want to be in the best brass line in DCI.
I mean, you're going to do the thing. You paid to audition. You paid to come to the camps. You've put in all of this time. Now you're here doing the thing. Like we're all in this together now. Like as soon as the day you put your bags down in the gym, day one, it's like, no, we're in this now. Like you committed. You signed on the line. Like this is we're going.
At Crown, that everyone buys into that, and other drum corps. My experience at Colts, that was like, okay, we're here for fun. Sometimes
it's like a culture shock on day one. We're like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, and thank God, because that was something I really needed in my life at the time. Just that drive of excellence, that drive of no, that's not good enough. Do it again. No, that's not good enough. Do it again. And you
get pissed at first because you're like, no, what? Like, come on. And then you realize later, you're just like, it gets instilled in you, that work ethic and that drive. And then it just stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. Shapes your life. Now that's there forever.
It fundamentally changes who you are as a person to be able to be pushed to such extreme limits of your physical capability and mental capability. Yeah.
Yeah. Beyond what you think you can do.
There are some days that I was like, man, if I had given up at any point, I don't know where I'd be, but thank God I did, because this shaped who I am today, to this day.
Yep.
So there was a really hard point of the season for me where I was like, I felt a little alone. I wasn't like an outcast of the tuba section, but I was like, you know, I was the rookie. I was a vet from another drum corps. You know, I was like, it was a bunch of vets and a couple rookies, and I was just kind of doing my thing, trying to have a good summer and trying to just mind my own business. And I was not super big into the stuff that happens outside of rehearsal times on free days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel
was not into that life, and that was a lot of the tuba section at the time. They like to hang out and do those
especially
things
an older
on those
group.
3 days. Yeah, an older group. A lot of Ageouts, a lot of people doing those things, and that was just not my vibe at the time. It's like, I'm not trying to ruin my summer by going out and doing these things.
You don't want to risk it.
I was like, I'm here at Carolina Crown. I'm not risking that. For me at the time, I was just, you know, I didn't bond with the members as much of my section as I probably could have. One, because I didn't want to partake in that kind of stuff. And two, it just wasn't my vibe. And so I kind of just minded my business, tried to have a good summer. And I remember one of the tuba section members, he was a vet, but he came in late to fill a spot. His name was Jabron. Love Jabron. Jabron's a homie. He really helped me out and helped get me through some really dark times of the summer when I was like, I don't know if I could do this, man. I was like, I don't really like the section right now. Everyone's kind of like a dick to me. I feel like I'm holding everyone back. And I wasn't, but in my head I was, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like I was the weak link. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. Imposter syndrome was hitting real hard. And I remember like we had ended a brass block and I was just sitting on the sideline with my head down, just like, I don't know if I can keep going, man. What am I doing here, man? What's happening? It was tough, and mentally as a rookie, even as a third-year drum corps vet,
right?
It was just that intensity
Imposter
of that season.
syndrome can still exist.
I remember,
very much so.
Jabron was a vet. He marched 14, 15, and it was an alternate at the time in 16, just because of the timing he came in. And you know, at that level, everyone's gunning for a spot to get on the field, and he was an alternate gunning for a spot. And I remember he was just like, hey man, like, let's just talk. And he's like, you know, I don't have to be talking to you right now. Like, you could leave and I would have your spot. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. Yeah.
True.
It's like, so what I'm saying to you is because I care about you and I love you and I want you to be here because I think you're awesome. And he's like, yeah, just, you know, you're awesome. You're here for a reason. Don't let the shitty attitudes of people during the summer get you down. You know, you earned this. You deserve to be here just as much as anyone else. I'm sorry you're feeling the imposter syndrome, but like, you just got to keep going, man. You're here at Carolina Crown. You're doing the thing, and you're going to get your ass up, and we're going to go get food, and you're going to come back to the next block ready to go.
And we're going to kick ass, and that's just what we do.
Yep. So shout out Jabron. Jabron helped me through that.
Shout out Jabron.
Love him, man. Jabron, real homie. I wish I would keep in touch with Jabron more. He's actually doing a really cool. He plays in he's in Texas and like in El Paso, and he's playing in a mariachi band, I think. like a big time mariachi band, and he's like on like the Hispanic America's Got Talent, and they were on there. I've been trying to follow his career a little bit. It's the language barrier kind of prevents me from understanding what's going on all the time. But I think he's doing some great things. So
hell yeah.
Shout out
Jabron, dude.
Thank you. I never really got to thank you or talk to you about it all, but I appreciate if you're
ever people like this. That though. It's people like that who'll help you get through a summer. Someone who's just willing to take that time to just have a conversation with you and be like, hey, things are going to be okay. And you're here for a reason. Yeah. And we got to pick ourselves up, and we got to put one foot in front of the other. And that's where you learn. I mean, so much of that, it goes beyond drum corps. It goes into your own life when you're feeling this way and you're just sitting there and you're like, no, if I just put one foot in front of the other today, and I just make the most out of today, what I can do today, then I can just move on to the next day and just getting to the next
rep. Just reset, get to the next rep. Every rep's a battle. Fight through the next rep. If you're someone going into marching drum corps, if you're someone that's like thinking about drum corps, just know that there are people in your drum corps that want to support you and help you. And you got to find your people at the drum corps, because I'm going to say 90, 98, maybe 99% of everyone in the drum corps is there to hype you up. They may not show it all the time, and they may not, be outwardly expressing it. But when you're in that drum corps setting, man, everyone is your family there. The people you spend your summer with, whether you talk to them a lot or you don't, whether you just know them by name and know you march with them or you don't, they're your family.
Right. Yep. And they're there for you. They got your back. Yeah. And I think something great, I mean, you can speak to this because you're teaching the activity now. I think the activity overall, all the groups have gotten a lot better about creating that culture and that atmosphere where we are all here for each other. Because when I was coming up in 2016, 17, and 18, not so much 18, but more 16 and 17, the corps were all divided. It was very much so. This is the Oregon Crusaders brass line. This is the drum line. This is the front ensemble, and this is the color guard. And those groups hang out. Whatever.
And then we all perform the show together, and that's the only time.
We all perform a show together, and then bye-bye. And it's just like, and then all of a sudden when you get in that atmosphere and you get to a place where like you get to know everybody on the field, like everybody on the field that you're going to perform with, and like you really get to know them. And it's just like
becomes even more special. Like
it's so much more special.
I didn't get to know a lot of the drumline guys or a lot of the color guard girls when I marched. Yeah, I was friends with some of them, but like just knowing that I know these incredible human beings and I was surrounded by such amazing people with such incredible talent. I still think about it. I'm like, did I actually do that? Like now that I've like been out of the activity for a while, I'm like, did I really march those summers? Did I actually? Yeah.
If you ever talk to somebody on the outside of it, they're like, dude, you did Crown 16. Oh, that's one of my favorite shows. And you look back on it, and you're like, dude.
Like, I notice every single tick. I notice every single.
Yeah, that too. But it's just like, the people, dude. Like that's what. Whenever it's like when I went to college and people were like, "Oh, you did Blue Nights." I was like, "Yeah, dude." But I was like, it was the best summer of my life because it was just like the people that I got to meet and hang out with that summer and got to know. And by the end of it, you realize how like just getting to know everybody. And when you're saying goodbye, you're like, everybody. I knew everybody here, and it was just like leaving. It's just like. You unlock that part where you're like, I have figured out why I do this. Yeah. I was just like, that right there, this feeling of just like, because for me, my whole thing was like, man, I got to get to Saturday night. I got to get to top 12. And then I finally did that. And I finally made it to a Saturday night for the first time. And it was just, I did my Saturday night and it ended. And I was like, it was never about like any of this. It was never about the score, the placement. I couldn't tell you the scores.
A fun thing, but like,
it's getting fun there and it's cool. It definitely, I won't lie to you, it's very cool getting up to all like doing the warm up, getting to be there that day when all the people are there. Like it's very cool. Don't get me wrong. And performing late, it's fun. But like when you get to say that you were with an incredible group of people, I mean that to me, like that like hit me as the show ended. I was like, I just was with an incredible group of people all summer. That
incredible group of people that will never all be together in the same place ever again. That was the part that always hit me is like this group of people will never assemble in the same place ever again. Not all 150, whatever, 160 people. Nope. It hit different.
And dude, that's why we do this. That's why we do Meet the Bus. Yep. I don't know how many people from this already in 15 episodes have just been like, dude, oh my God, I hope you're doing great. Like, this is so cool. Yeah. And then that's how, because that's my thing is just like, you hear that all the time towards the end of seasons. You're just like, hey, this group will never be in the same room again. You're like,
Yeah, it doesn't hit you until afterward, and when you're home,
You go home.
showering by yourself, and you're
Yeah.
back to your real life, driving your car for the first time again, and you forget how to
You're like,
drive for a second, and you're just like laying there, and you're like, oh, I won't forget like driving back to college after 2016 Crown, and I didn't really watch the show a lot throughout the summer. I tried to like not watch and just focus on what I was doing. But
being in the moment.
Being in the moment, yeah, exactly. Especially 13 and 14. You know, I did watch the show a lot because I post recordings, and I lost sight of what I was doing. And so 16, I was like, I'm not gonna watch the show until after it's all said and done. And
Yeah.
I remember driving back that Sunday back to Springfield and just putting the audio on because I was driving and just listening to the show, and I was just crying, just bawling in the car by myself. Headed back to band camp for college, and I was like, "Oh my god, dude! I can't believe
about everything you just went through that summer.
Everything's flowing. You're reliving every moment. You're trying to think about everything that you're like, just overwhelming. That day after the post-tour depression, as we like to call it, dude. That hit the hardest. It hit the hardest after 16 for me.
Yeah,
that 17 was a good season too, but like the 16 season was something special.
So I guess one last question. I've talked about it with Keith and Taylor. I have to ask you: at the end of the season, you take 3 captions overall. You take brass, you take Viz, and you take guard.
Correct.
No. And you guys come in 3rd place.
Dude.
I said both interviews I've done with both of them. I was like, man, if it isn't rigged, I don't know what is. I was like, man, how do y'all get 3 captions? I mean, like the thing was, and listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because honestly, truthful in that summer, you guys were the best drum corps. Yeah. I've heard it a million times, and it's very true. You guys were the best drum corps, no matter what the standings are. You guys were the best drum corps on the road that summer. Like hands down, everybody was like, yeah, they were the winner for sure. Blue Coats were the winner, but like Crown was the best drum corps out there this summer.
Yeah, we definitely, had a really killer show. Good brass book. We marched our butts off. The color guard. Oh my god, that Fantastic. Color guard was fan freaking just. There was a point in the season where we were doing like staggered blocks or whatever, just to like the meal times, make the meal times easier because there was like limited kitchens. I don't remember what it was, but it was like there was an hour of overlap where the color guard was still rehearsing and we were on lunch. And I remember just getting my food and going to sit in the bleachers and just watching the guard rehearse, and just it blew my mind. And like I had watched guards rehearse from high school, and I been on the field watching guard rehearse. I never really super paid attention, just because I'm always watching the horn line. But like seeing that color guard out there just doing crazy spin, crazy tosses, doing this amazing dance, some of the best performers I've ever seen, and just,
incredible.
Like I'm performing with these people, like
made the show what it is.
No, that color guard was so good. So many fantastic humans, so many fantastic performers. A lot of those people ended up going to spin Pride of Cincinnati, and so they were top of the game DCI, top of the game WGI, just like best of the best. And like they had this one move where they were doing like partner works, and like they had saber and rifle partners, and they had like the little stools and doing choreography on the stools while doing tosses off the stools and lifting them with the sabers in their mouths. And I was like, I'm just here playing tuba. Like, what is she doing up there? She's what?
How the hell?
Yeah. So that it's awesome. Percussion was also super great. I don't think I think they got genuinely robbed of better placement just because of how intense and how like biased some of not biased, but like a certain judge on a certain night will throw down a number based off of East Coast or West Coast. I'm sure if you have any percussionists on the show, they'll talk about it. But for sure. There's just it's such a diverse opinion about how percussion should be. And I think the style of our percussion that year was just like not hitting what the judges were looking for. And they score. They were still top 5, I believe, top 6. So still a high caliber drum line, and still some of the best drummers I've ever played with in a competitive ensemble. Yeah, I think they got shafted almost all season. And but no, I'll never forget that finals night for that season. And the finals retreat. You're standing on the field in your ranks with your section, and you're standing with your arms crossed, looking all intense and doing the thing. They call out 12th place, in 12th place, whoever, 11th place, whoever, 9th, 10th place, whoever. And they do the first caption award.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the order, but I know they went best brass, Carolina Crown. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. That's the one we expected.
We'll
We've
take that.
been winning brass all week. We had been winning brass
What we do.
all of it all.
Yeah.
And they're going 7-6 or 8-7-6. Award for best general effect, Blue Coats. Of course. They're going up. Award for best percussion, Vanguard. Okay. We all have one caption now. Great.
Yeah.
Get into the top few ones. Best visual performance, Carolina Crown. And we were like,
yeah.
Hold up. Did we do something?
Wait a minute.
Best color guard, Carolina Crown.
Are we doing it?
And then I think it was guard last, and they were doing like third place. And like, in third place with a score of 90 something point something.
Carolina Crown.
We're,
wait,
like,
and then we're supposed to be like, in second.
The quartet hut, and everyone was like, "Oh God, what?" Because everyone was just like, "What? How? What? How?
What do you mean?"
Some people missed the cue to go to the ready. I don't. We were the tuba section, so we didn't do that shit because we were just in the back doing our thing.
we're still looking around like,
huh? What? And then they second place, Blue Devils with no captions.
With no captions, by the way. No captions.
First place, the Blue Coats.
Someone go ahead and explain.
I'll tell you what it is. It's that general effect caption carries so much weight.
So much weight.
And it helps a lot of cores, and it doesn't help a lot of cores. And I think part of it
feels like whoever gets it though is like definitely
I think
the guy.
In the last 20 years, I remember reading the statistics somewhere. In the last 20 years of DCI finals, only one group has won general effect, but not won finals. 2015 Crown.
We gotta start having some conversations.
So that's a whole different conversation.
Are you kidding me? I mean, that's too good.
It could be. I'm not sure about the last few years, but I know up until like 2019, that was still the case. Like the only core to win general effect, but not win the championship was Carolina Crown 15.
We will have that on the screen for this. We will make sure. We need the people to know about that. It's
crazy.
Insane.
It's crazy.
That's kind of crazy.
I could be wrong, but as far as I know, at least up until 2019, I believe that was the case.
Too rich.
Yeah.
Way too rich.
I think a lot of the factors that went into that was the ending of our show. I'm sure you heard from Taylor and Keith how the ending of the show changed throughout the season. I'm really glad that it ended the way it did. I still look back on that season very fondly and still think about, I'm really happy it ended the way it did. I felt, pleasure from the ending being how it ended.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
You always think about what if though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, I think about what if,
which is a good transition into 2017. Have you gotten to talk at all about 2017 Crown with anybody?
No, actually no, because most of the people just their age out was 2016. Mm-hmm. So I actually haven't got anybody on to talk about.
Yeah, 17. So my age out was 2017, ahead. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with design teams or design names of people and stuff, but the design team for Crown for a long time for the visual aspect and color guard aspect was Leon May wrote the drill. Mm-hmm. Michael Townsend was color guard design and show design. And I forget the other guy's name, but another big name designer. That was the summer that after 2016, they ended up getting hired on at Boston.
Oh, okay.
So we lost our drill writer. We lost our color guard, caption head, and color guard team, and a good chunk of our visual team also went to Boston.
I do remember that happening now. Okay.
So going into 2017, they had already started making plans for what the show was going to be with that design team. And when they left, they kind of left like a half-finished product, not quite developed all the way. Yeah. So when they hired Jeff Saktig and, Rick Subel, trying to get that team in there to design. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instead of building on what the previous team had already started, they just scrapped it and started new. So if you're not familiar with like drum corps design team processes, a lot of cores are thinking years, months, and sometimes years in advance about show designs and show plans. Wow. So by the time the Crown had figured out who they were going to hire for those vacancies, it was already camp season.
Yeah.
So we went into camp season kind of like, what's going to happen?
What is this looking like? What's our show?
What does this look like? What is our show? What's going to...
Yeah.
So we're going into the 2017 season. We're all kind of like, oh, not sure about this. Not 100% sure what's going to happen. At that point, I had talked about going to audition other places, but I was like, I'm at Carolina Crown. This is my Ageout. I'm not going to go anywhere. There's no point. This is it. This is where I want to be for my Ageout, obviously.
For sure.
And so during that off season, a lot of the color guard members from that 2016 best color guard winning team went to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Lost a lot of our color guard vets, and they kind of had to rebuild the color guard program. And that was a big downer, losing a lot of those talented people. And so trying to build up the drum corps to have a good season and have repeat or better performance was a big challenge going into it. And going into that 2017 season, they didn't tell us like anything about the show, like throughout most of the camps, because they were still working on what to do, like still designing and still deciding what the product was going to be.
So normally,
I can't say normally because I'd only had a year, but like in January, we knew what the show was going to be. Like we knew it was going to be about vengeance. We knew we were going to do, at least they tell the membership,
Right.
So we get to that time and they're like, we have an idea. We're not going to share it just yet because we're not sure 100% yet, but it's going to be awesome. And we're like,
okay.
And obviously it's still Carolina Crown. It's still going to be a phenomenal brass line. And so we're going into the season, a lot of young talent, a lot of people that had marched other drum corps and rooking out at Crown, or I think
that helps too. Getting like drum corps vets in general. I think that like Blue Knights 19 was a very young horn line, but we had so many drum corps vets, so that kind of helped out with the younger age. Probably had like a 18 average age, but like with that drum corps vet experience, it kind of helped.
Huge difference.
A lot of that. Yeah.
Getting into that season was just a very different vibe from the 2016 season. And just even coming from the brass team didn't change at all. There were slight changes to the visual team. We lost a couple of our main techs to Boston. They went with Leon to be caption heads. So like some of the upper techs became caption heads at Boston, and some of the other techs that were like just field techs became like assistants, caption heads or whatever. So a little bit of a splitting of the visual team, but we still, the main core of the visual team stayed. So for me as a member, it didn't feel much different on the education side, but the show design side was definitely like way different. Like the staging process and the drill design process was similar because Leon and Jeff have similar drill writing backgrounds and they write really hard drill, but it was still different and it was still like a learning curve with a new team. And man, my 2017 season was rocky. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit of a long one. So if you watched the 2017,
y'all go in. I'm scrapping all the 17 questions.
Go in. I don't like to talk about it too much because it was, kind of sucky. But so 2017, you've seen the show,
Yes,
it is the show about the yard lines change, the field gets messed up. The whole point of like how drum corps changes. We start from the little fugue in G minor, which is very stock old school drum corps. Play a classical music piece on the field, make it really cool. Into a more modern drum corps, playing some fanfares, doing some choreo, mostly marching. Into the ballad, almost all choreography, almost all musical, artistic, floaty dance work. Not a whole lot of more modern of the drum corps side of things for today's standards. And then the closer was just old run and gun drum corps drill along with choreography. So it was like
prime
back and forth of now you're marching 208 beats per minute. Now you're dancing, doing crazy modern pop stuff. So just the flow of it all was like the idea of the show was like how a drum corps itself is changing and what it means to be drum corps in today in the 2017 era. It is, and they didn't. I don't know how they came up with that name, but they just kind of. It is what it is type thing.
It's the name.
It's the name.
It is.
And when they announced it, I was like, okay, weird.
It is
weird. Yeah, it is coming from Inferno and relentless, and out of this world.
Out of this world.
Yeah, it is ...
It is.
The official name of the show is It Is ...
You're like, what?
Yeah. So going into the season, vibes are different. Everything feels a little different. Color guard team is like entirely different. Brass is mostly the same education wise, different membership. And I love the 2016 horn line, but the 2017 horn line was so tight and such a family atmosphere. And like I knew everyone's name in that horn line, and I felt really connected. Part of it being a second year member versus a rookie helps.
Yeah.
And having a younger group where you're the vet and, you know, that kind of vibe is different. So love the 2017 horn line. Love those people. I love the 2016 show more than the 2017 show. So I remember 2016 more fondly because I liked the show more. Yeah. But I like the people of 2017 just a little more. I have my Ageout season. It's my people.
Yeah, so absolutely.
We're going into spring training with this show, sometimes called the itis. You got the itis instead of It Is.
Itis.
Going into spring training, doing the things. And, you know, I'm in Ageout. My body hurts. I'm going to see the trainer every day because my feet are killing me because, you know, the usual Ageout body broken type. So we
especially as a tuba player too, like injuries are bound to happen carrying that heavy of an instrument.
I've been pretty lucky to be injury free most of my drum corps career.
There you go.
You can kind of see where this is leading now. So we get to learn the closer. The closer is Andy Akiho's No One to No One.
Oh yeah, I played that in 2016.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Full circle moment. Look at that. And just keeps going back. So that's our closer, and it's fast. It's 208, and we play it at the 208 tempo. And from the time that the closer starts, we're just booking, running, gunning. And the tubas are in this giant arc to end the ballad. And we start in this arc, and it takes the arc, and we jazz run forward into the arc, pulls it back. And then we take the arc, and we go straight backwards in a line up the yard, like splitting the yard line. Oh. And so we're learning it. And Viz block in the morning, down tempo, like 140, 160, somewhere in that range, you know, fast, but not ridiculously.
Get it under your feet.
Get it under your feet, learn the dots, learn the pathways, do that stuff. Learned it that morning. I think we learned like the first like 15 sets of it or something. We get all the way up to that part with the bass drum where they make the triangle, you know. So we get up to about there. We stop there. We get to brass that afternoon. We're playing it on the move, down tempo, super slow, doing little chunks. Like, all right, tubas are playing this just crazy ostinato the whole time. It's in 5/4, so the moves are super weird. The drill moves are crazy. Sometimes you're doing a 5 count move, sometimes you're doing a 10 count move, sometimes it's a right foot. Madness, and then you throw into that props.
Yeah.
So we did it in brass, down tempo, no props. Horns playing down tempo. We get to ensemble that night, and they're like, "Okay, set up the top of the closer with props." We're like, "Okay." So we're the whole drum corps, you know, putting the color guard and the percussion all together, trying to work through it together with the props. Try to get all the everything sorted out. And that move I was talking about earlier with the tubas, like jazz running forward and like hauling ass backwards. We're booking it. And there's one of the yard line props that's on the yard line, but it's spun horizontally to where the edge was going to splitting. So it's kind of...
Oh, my God.
And so it turned out that the move had us crossing over that prop and having to haul backwards, basically almost jazz running backwards, giant step size, fast tempo. And they're having us play these chunks at tempo with props for the first time.
After you just learned it in the morning?
After we just learned it that morning.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We're like, all right, we're going. It was kind of a hype, but then we're like,
oh no.
One person goes down, and we're like, another person goes down. Right. A couple people start to fall and start to trip, and we're all like,
something's very wrong.
Uh-oh. And we get to that move where we're backing up, and I'm in like the middle of the line. And I'm like the second or third person to cross over the prop. And so I'm booking it backwards. We're repping the crap out of the chunk because it was a really hard move. You know how you do.
Yeah.
We're repping it. I dodged it multiple times. And then one rep, booking it backwards, thought I knew my crossing count. My foot catches on the prop, slips, step on it, pushes backwards. I fall backwards, roll back, slam my head on the turf. Roll out of the set, luckily, get up, hop back in the drill. I'm like marching, and they check, adjust, put the tuba down. I'm like,
Andrew,
you
okay?
You good back there?
You okay?
I'm like, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, all right,
Yup.
reset, do it again. And I don't remember much beyond this, if that says anything. But I do remember being told afterward that I was reset and I'd done a couple more reps, and I was kind of standing there whenever we were standby, and I was just kind of,
whoa.
and they're like, Andrew, how you feeling, man? Like the tuba section was like, are you doing all right? I was like, what do you mean? You fell earlier. I was like, what?
You hit your head pretty hard.
I was like, did I? And they're like, go, get off.
Get out.
So I go to see the trainer, and have you done a concussion test before?
No.
So they do the thing where they take their finger, and they're like, all right, follow my finger.
Right.
And here's me. I'm like, and the goal is to not move your head, just to follow with your eyes, right? Just have your finger follow your eyes. And my ass went,
hey.
Why is there two fingers?
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
And so I was immediately put on concussion protocol, taken back to the dorm, and started doing some concussion stuff. They took me to a doctor, got diagnosed with a very serious concussion, and I think I was out for the rest of spring training. And I remember just sleeping nonstop.
Well, I was gonna say, what do you do for that when you're?
They had me in my dorm, just trying to stay out of the light, stay out of loud places, because almost everywhere on campus is bright light and loud places, which is terrible for a concussion. So I was just in my dorm room, and I just slept so much. Like, I would just sleep for hours and hours and hours. And I don't think you're technically supposed to sleep if you have a.
I was gonna say, I don't think you're supposed to sleep on a concussion.
I did,
but I was just like, hey,
I slept a lot, and I don't.
What else are you gonna do? Where can you go?
Yeah, I can't. I spent a lot of time with trainers, and it was awful. And I just remember being like, oh my God, this is like the worst. And I had, previously mostly dodged injuries my entire time marching so far. Like, the worst thing that ever happened to me was I had like rolled my ankle one year at Colts and had to sit out for a few reps in an ensemble.
And you're like, I'm back in, it's fine.
Put ice on it. But no, this was like big deal. And throughout the season, other people had fallen and gotten concussions as well. Like, I think within the 16-person tuba section, like 4 or 5 people fell and got concussions at some point. Yeah, it was crazy. And shout out to the med team for taking care of all of us tubas. But
shout out to med teams and
shout out to med teams in general. Oh my gosh,
for what you do,
the heroes of the drum corps world. You do not get enough pay. You do not get enough respect. Love y'all
for the things
my
that
med
you guys
team
had
at
to
Crown
experience.
Were amazing. They took care of me so well. But it definitely was a big, big nightmare. And the story gets better too. So we're wrapping up spring training. I'm still heavily under concussion protocol. We leave Gardner Webb. We pack up spring training. And that was still at the time where they were doing the tour premiere in the Dome at Indy.
At Lucas Oil.
Lucas Oil, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I unfortunately had to miss that show, or I thought I was going to have to be in that show. I was like, I'm going to be good enough to go back. So we're on our way up from South Carolina up to Indy. We stopped in Kentucky. And at that point, I had been cleared by the trainers enough to be able to do some reps in, some reps out. No horn, just marching my spot to try to work my way back in. At that point, when we were in Kentucky, I had been cleared by the med team to march. I was like, okay, we're good.
Here we go.
I'm going to go officially see a doctor in the morning when we stay at Avon in Indiana. And I'm going to get official doctor clearance that I'm concussion free.
All right.
So we're doing ensemble. I'm feeling good, feeling totally fine. I'm like, all right, I feel like I'm good to go. We get to the later on the closer, a part that I had missed from learning because I was out for so long. And it's another one of those moves where we're marching backwards, hauling butt. Another prop in the way. Didn't know it was coming. Fell again. This time landed on my elbow. And the little tiny bone not the big bone over here, but the little tiny bone, it's called the radial bone. Didn't even know that was a thing. Got a hairline fracture on it from landing on it, falling on my elbow. So I go in to urgent care the next day to get cleared for my concussion.
And this is your first day back on the field.
First day like fully back in, cleared by the med team. Go to urgent care in the morning to get cleared by the doctor. And I was like, hey, by the way, can you do a quick x-ray on my arm? I can't move it right now without pain. And so they do an x-ray and they find the fracture. And I go back. They're expecting me to be good to go. They didn't even, like, most of the staff didn't even realize I had fallen in the run through that night before. So I come back in a sling.
Which solid, by the way. Hey, they didn't even.
Yeah.
That's a good recovery right there.
Yeah.
They didn't even know.
Yeah. I tried to play it off because I was like, ooh, this hurts. I should be fine, though. And no, it was not fine. Got a big fracture.
No.
And ended up going back to Avon in a sling. And I was like, so I missed the tour premiere for my Ageout, unfortunately.
So what?
So
oh my god! So how after that? When do you get back on the field? How does that?
So it is. Luckily, it wasn't too bad of a fracture, so I was able to take some time out. I did my best to try to get in the reps as much as I could without a horn, but there just came a point where I got pulled aside and was like, "Hey man, are you gonna not be injured? Can we expect you to get back on the field, or do we need to send you home?"
And it's not like a personal.
And it's not personal. It's just like, hey, like, how serious is this? How soon can you get back in? And I was like, listen, this is my Ageout. I didn't want any of this to happen. This is just a really unfortunate stream of events that I was not in control of. I'm not trying to fall and break.
You were doing your job.
I was doing my job. I'm doing what you asked me to do. I don't want to go home. This is my Ageout. Don't send me home. And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have people shadowing your spot so they can learn it just in case. I was like, okay, do what you got to do, whatever.
Great.
So I'm working back in, doing some reps on and off the field. And I remember there was like a moment where I was marching on the field. I was like, who is the tuba that's marching without a tuba? And I like hold up my sling like, hey, and they're like, if you're not going to march the tuba, give it off the field. I was like, okay.
Was this a different person up top or?
Yeah. I don't remember who it was. I was
got you.
Not trying to
just different from who talked to you before.
Yes. So
damn.
Yeah, and I was pretty emotional at the time.
By the way, holding up the sling.
Yeah, like I'm trying to march. I'm trying to do what I need to do. I'm trying to do my thing, but whatever.
Hey, fellas, check it out.
So I ended up being able to work it out. I started doing some reps with the tuba. I was pushing through a lot of pain, taking a lot of ibuprofen. Yeah, and oh man, it was. I eventually got back in, and I was like PTSD almost. Not to use that term lightly, but like. Anytime I was near a prop, I was like, not happening again. I would pull my face off the horn and be like, I am not tripping over these goddamn props again. Not again.
Not happening.
Not happening again. So luckily, remained injury-free for the rest of the season. Can't say the same thing about my section. Shout out 2017 Tuba section. Concussion crew. Dude.
4 or 5 guys getting, dude.
So many people were out for so much. It was ridiculous.
It feels like it's all stuff that was like out of your guys' control, though. Not so much like you guys were not prepared or anything like that. Because most of the time, it's like people not being prepared or stuff like that. But like literally in this situation, you're being set up in a way.
Yeah.
For
no offense to anybody on that design team or on that education team at the time, but we were not set up for success to be able to do those things.
I'm sure their ideas were in the best interest of the people. But
I don't doubt that at all. But when the feet hit the pavement, that's not what happened. And had a hell of a season though. Had marched with a lot of great people. Had a lot of fun.
When did you end up getting back on the? When did you end up getting back on like officially?
Fully back in 2 weeks before San Antonio. I missed most of pre-tour and the beginning of tour, and I ended up getting back in like 2 weeks out from San Antonio. So like Midwest. I think we were doing Midwest tour that year.
Because I got through like the first week of tour.
Yeah, I got through. It was like the first week and a half, 2 weeks that I was out for the broken elbow. Because I remember getting back in for the DCI St. Louis show. I remember.
Nice.
That was the big one for me. I was like, I need to be back in for this show. This is the home show. I don't care. I don't care how I'm feeling with my elbow. I gotta get back in there.
That was the first year for that show, right? For St. Louis. Was that the Dome St. Louis?
No, that was 2018, which I was pissed about because that was after I aged out.
Same, because I wasn't even. I was a West Coast core, so I was not getting scheduled to be at the Midwest show.
That they did the Dome show the year after I aged out. But it was whatever show it was. Maybe it wasn't DCS.
Warrensburg?
Maybe no, because Warrensburg stopped after 16. Either way, it was my home show, and I was like, I got to get back in, and from then on, I was in. So
there you go.
It was a very rough start to that 17 season for me, but still ended up really strong. Ended up finishing a good season. Loved my section that year. A lot of homies in that crew. It was the second to last Sweet 16, the tuba section at Crown. We'd always call ourselves the Sweet 16.
Hell yeah.
And then after 2018, they went to 12.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's not so sweet.
It was fine. You know, the show worked itself out. We had
right.
The show design ended up being a pretty good show. I've heard a lot of people say they actually like 2017 better than 2016, which in my mind, I'm like, are you crazy?
Did we watch?
Have you watched? Have you watched the show? No, but it's a good brass book. Like that horn line. Like while it was a younger horn line, insanely talented. Like
still a good Carolina Crown show.
The 2016 line was good because it worked their asses off. The 2017 line was just a talented group of individuals putting together a really hard brass book, and it was a lot of fun.
What made your 2017 Ageout like worth it to you?
I mean, obviously, you know, having to go through all that medical stuff, definitely like when I got to the end, it felt like the relief of making it through the Ageout, and 4 years of marching was just like a big like I could finally rest, you know. On the 7th day he rested, and after the 4th season I rested. I was like, thank God.
Done.
Especially after the nightmare of that medical stuff. So that was a whole thing. But you know, especially given the circumstances of the show design and the design team and having all that happen, I was really happy with the show. I was really happy with the brass book, and it ended up working out that we ended up winning best brass back to back, which is huge.
Yes.
Super cool.
No small feat.
Well, and he was even cooler. If you go back and look at the scores from like the prelim semis finals, we were on pace to be like the highest scoring overall brass line of all time.
Really?
We got a 19-8 in prelims, a 19-8 in semis. And we were hoping for a 20 in finals.
Right.
19-4. Oh! I don't know, man. I don't know. We were like 20. Whack. We were all like 20, 20, 20.
It's
20.
happening.
The only other chord to get a 20 in brass on finals night, you know?
Crown 13.
Crown 13. Crown 13. I'm sure you heard the story from Keith and Taylor about playing the judges tape.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for which year?
16.
I don't think they did, actually, no.
They really? Oh. No. I forget. There was some point in the season, I hate to go back to 16, but just a quick story.
Yeah.
Our horn sergeant, Corey Gates, shout out Corey, mentioned him earlier. We were kind of hitting that point of the season where it looks like Blue Coats were running away with it and didn't have a chance. And we were like, you know, Blue Devils are going to beat us, whatever. We were all like, what's the point? You know, we're just going to get slotted third. We've been slotted third all season. I hate using the S word, but it was like 2 weeks out from finals. I think it was like right before Allentown. It was either right before Allentown or right after Allentown. Corey asks Matt if he can pull the horn line aside for 20, 30 minutes to talk. And like at that point we were all like, we're so down. Like, man, this is just whatever. Like, it's not turning out how we thought it would. And so Corey pulls us all over. He's like, I'm going to show you guys something. And only a very select group of individuals have ever gotten to listen to it. But I think it's so important that we as a group and we as a horn line listen to this and appreciate what came before us and what they did. And he played for us the brass judge tape from 2013 finals. And just listening to that and hearing the judges' comments, the clarity and the resonance and the maturity of the sound. And I think it's on YouTube somewhere now because the internet is the internet.
That one that got posted by like DCI?
I think so. The 2013 Crown.
Because I've listened to the one that DCI put on their like official YouTube and everything, and just listening to him being like.
So this was way before they posted it or shared it anywhere. And
wow.
Like the only people that had that recording were like Crown Brass and staff and people that like were marching that season.
Yeah.
And so he played us the recording, and it was like, "This is what we're here for. This is what we're here to do. And if you're not here to get a tape like this, regardless of the score." This is not what you're here to do. This is not Carolina Crown. This is something else. We need to, This is what we need to be, because it would be disrespectful to the people that came before us to do anything less.
Who set that standard?
Hell yeah, we are. And that, I think from that point forward is when we really took off as a brass line, just really cleaning and getting the final details on all that stuff to really propel us to be where we ended up that year.
You made the best Carolina Crown that year.
Yep. Yep. I'm surprised they didn't tell that story, because for me that was like ingrained in my memory from that season.
I brought up in Keith's episode that that judge tape because I ended up watching. I ended up listening to it because they have it like side by side. No, they don't have it side by side, but they have the tape playing, and I just listened through that whole tape, and I brought up some of the things to Keith, and I forgot one of them was just like, you guys are taking the impossible and making it relevant. That quote kind of just stuck with me the most out of everything. Just hearing that, and it was kind of just like, yeah, like you hope to get a tape like that one day. You know
that's
what I'm
the goal.
So that's
you
just,
want to have someone that knows what they're talking about, like a judge. Say nothing but good things. No stick outs, no call outs, no tone quality issues, no overplaying, no chainsaws, as Matt likes to say.
Yeah.
We get the no chainsaws comment a lot. No chainsaws.
No
I'm
chainsaws.
sure you heard that a couple times.
No cats in the frying pan.
No cats in the frying pan. Yep. that was a pivotal time for the horn line of that year. I remember that a lot. So
that's sweet.
Oh, anyway, we're talking about 2017, and we're talking about.
I think just to end off your career, something I had a question about was what was your favorite moment as a marching member? It's a very broad question because you did 4 years, but it's just I think it's something that we don't really. I don't think we take time to think about that.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the moments that sticks out the most to me, and this is going to sound super cliche, and I don't want it to sound cliche, but it was the first year of Crown 2016. And, you know, talking about Saturday night, getting to perform on Saturday night for the first time and being able to, you know, on the field from Fort Mill, South Carolina.
And the crowd is like,
Carolina crowd. It's, whoa. That hits so different.
And Lucas Oil, they'd like drop the bass on like when they say the name, you just hear whoa,
Carol,
and you can feel it. You can just feel it, and everyone's cheering, and like all the little like banners across the little jumbotron banners. You just start seeing all the colors change and everything. And you're just like, then you look up at that Lucas Oil sign.
Yeah.
You see the time. It's like for you guys, it's like 10
the O and oil. Got to get that O and oil.
The O and oil. Yep, absolutely. That's a spot. And it's just looking up at all of that. Like,
I remember looking at the crowd for finals and being like, this is it. This is like what I've been waiting for my entire marching career. And then again, looking at that crowd the last time finals, Ageout. Those two are like tied into my mind. Just seeing the crowd on their feet at the end of the show, especially even the beginning of the show is hype. End of the show for me for the 17 was never forget that.
It's special. And I just
the performance aspect of it and getting audiences on their feet is what it really is about as a performer. Like scores are going to be scores. People are going to say what they want to say, but getting a crowd to get on their feet and cheer for you is just
at the biggest stage of the activity. Like, I don't know what it is. And I've always tried to figure out, but when anytime, no matter like prelims, semis or finals, I mean, especially finals, but like, there's just like a different like wind underneath your like legs. You just feel so fresh when you get out there. Everything feels like you're walking on water when you start doing your show. Everything, I can't describe it to you, but when you start,
it's indescribable.
Like the air too, like you start walking out of that tunnel and you're touching the field and everything is just like, everything's magical. Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it.
Have you been back to Lucas Oil since you marched last? Like been on the field at all?
I've seen the outside of it and gone back and seen the outside, but like I haven't been inside of it since 2019. I haven't been inside of it.
So being a band director and being on staff, I've had multiple experiences on that field now with Crown, Colts, with high school bands I've taught, taking my first job to Grand Nationals for the first time. Yeah. Going with my new job, going with them to Indy for the first time performing there. And every time you step on that field, it's just like, everything comes flooding back. All the memories, like that's where I stood for that show. That's where I was for that show. Oh, I remember that happening. It's just a rush. And then seeing, students nowadays, seeing students get out there and see the magic happen for them and getting on that field and being like, this is the Mecca of the marching arts.
Yes.
And getting that, seeing their reactions. And some of them it doesn't quite resonate with yet. But like the juniors, seniors, or the age outs, or when you see that click for students as a teacher and knowing what that feels like and feeling them feel it. Yeah. It's totally different. And it's not the same. And I love it equally
but it's a different type of appreciation being on that side of it now and getting to see them have the experiences that you had. And you're like, I know exactly what that feels like and what you're experiencing. It's just like the coolest thing ever. Yeah. It's like, it's the best. I can't describe it, but something about, especially like, dude, I teared up when I finally got to do Saturday Night, man. Cause for me,
it's emotional.
It was it's a journey of an 11-year-old kid who grew up watching all these shows. He used to go watch his brother for 5 years and watch finals and go in that go in that stadium and watch everybody, and you watch the videos for years and years and years, and you work for years and years and years, and then finally after 8 years of being around the activity and 4 years of working your ass off, and then finally you get to touch it and you get to see the words like finals on the like banner. You get to see like 9 o'clock on the time. Like that was the big thing for me is when I was like a semifinalist, I'd always look at the time and I'm like, I want to perform at 9:30. I want to go at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Prime time.
That's when I want to be on.
Prime time.
And like getting to finally go out there and see like 9:31. I was like, I did it.
This is it.
Like I've done, and you look at everything, and I just like it for me. Like in the beginning, I took that moment in the beginning to definitely have like a culmination of like this is incredible. This is like this is the dream coming true. So yeah, that's a little nerdy moment for me.
No, it's totally
Get on my soapbox.
Everyone who does this activity has those moments. And has those feelings, and they're super real and they're super unique to everyone. And it's just such special. You gotta. It's whether you do it one time, whether you do it multiple times, whether you don't get to do it, whether it's finals, whether it's prelims only, whether it's the first time, whether it's the last time.
Take it.
It's just different. I don't know.
It's
something about that field, something about that stadium. Just
it's different. It's all different. So we're 3 hours in, and I think it's a great time. It's a great time to start talking about your teaching career here. Yeah. So first, right off the bat, who or maybe what inspired you to get into music education?
So for me, it was kind of a mix of just doing marching band in high school and then being influenced by teachers. Biggest inspirations for me were definitely like Jason Bergman, who I now teach with, which is awesome. Mark Ishman, I'm sure you remember Mark.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah. He's the reason I did Winter Drumline my senior year.
Him and Harry, the whole Howell crew of teachers, the tech staff that push the band to be better than they were capable of, and push the kids to go march drum corps. I'll forever be thankful because that's really what set me on the trajectory of my life. And so getting to do that and being able to go march. So getting into teaching then at that point in high school, I was like, I don't really like anything else besides band. Band had become my thing. It become my personality. It had become my life. Right. That's all I cared about. I only wanted to do band, nothing but band. And I was like, okay, so what are my teachers I look up to? They're teaching. Okay. Right. Where do they all go? Most of them went to Missouri State. I was like, okay, I'll go take a visit. So I went down to visit Springfield campus and got to see the marching band rehearse, got to see the campus, got to talk to some of the faculty. And I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not going to tour anywhere else. I didn't tour any other college, didn't tour any other university, didn't consider any other major. After my first season of drum corps, going into my senior year, I was like, yep, I'm going to go do music ed.
This is it.
I don't have anything else. I don't have a plan B. I don't have a safety net. I don't have anything else I would rather do. And honestly, I've never thought about anything else after.
That's awesome.
A lot of teachers, they'll be like, oh, if this doesn't work out, or if the money isn't right, or if blah, 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 I'll do so. This is all I know. This is all I want to do. This is all I care about.
This is what I do. This is what you love.
This is me.
That's what you need. That's what the music, that's what the arts need out there. The fine arts, they need teachers who love what they do. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like I
feel very lucky and grateful to get to do what I do every day. Because teaching sometimes is it's hard for a lot of people because it's a lot of hours to do it really, really well. And you have to put in a lot of outside time. And teaching music is especially nice. One, because the kids that are there want to be there. For the most part, you get some kids that are in band or music because their parents are making them do it, or you have to do a fine arts, whatever. But like, if a kid doesn't want to do band after a year, they can just quit band, whatever. Sure. Let's get off my nose, whatever. Right. We want to keep them. We want to love them. We want to have them in our program. But if it's not for them, you can't you can take a horse to water. You can't make it drink,
That's a good one.
So it's a good one. Being able to go to the band room in the classroom every day and just get on the podium and make music with young musicians, young students, and being able to showcase why I love doing what I love and being able to share that passion every day. You don't get to do that everywhere. You don't get to do that in every career field. And I'm really lucky that I get to do that every day. Every
day is like a new experience for you.
It is.
New is going to happen every day.
It's awesome. And it's the kids nowadays. I say kids nowadays, but Post COVID, there's definitely been a shift in how students in the public school system think and act, but I love it. A lot of veteran teachers like to complain about this new age of kids and the Gen Z and their smartphones and their TikTok. I think it's hilarious, and I'm on TikTok. I love to watch all the videos and make references, and they think it's a little cringe because I'm a teacher, but also it's like,
I can relate to you.
I can relate
You're lucky because all your other teachers out there aren't cool like me.
I try not to be the cool teacher, but I try to know what's going on. And it's a fun time. It really is, and
That's
I'm
cool.
very lucky to land in such a good school that I'm at and get to teach with some of the best teachers in the state, and get to work with some amazing kids and great community.
That's amazing. That is awesome. Hopping into your first year of drum corps teaching,
Mm-hmm.
You hopped in Troopers 2021. That
2021.
obviously being like the COVID trial run type of season. How difficult was that in your first year teaching in drum corps? How difficult was that coming into the COVID year?
Yeah, so especially like for me, I aged out in 2017, and from 2017 to then, I had really no real like connection to drum corps. I went to shows, I stayed up to date with scores, went to some shows, stayed in touch with friends, but like my connection to the activity was kind of gone for those 4 years. And an opportunity came up. One of the guys that was doing his master's degree at Missouri State at the time, named Gabriel Durkop. He was a master's student in trombone, and his wife, Mary Durkop, was recently appointed brass caption head at Troopers. And so she was looking for people to fill the team, and I had known Gabriel pretty well, being a tuba player next to a bass trombone player. We talked a lot, and he's like, hey, Andrew marched drum corps, you marched crown, you should talk to him. So I met up with Mary, and she's like, okay, what do you think about joining the team? I was like, okay. Yeah, I haven't done this before, but I'm a teacher. I've taught for 2 years. Sure, why not?
Right.
And so I ended up getting really lucky with that, assembling a team and considering me and bringing me on the team. And we get into that first season of going into 2021. It's like September of 2020. That summer was, I'm sure, it's the activity was
not the easiest thing in the world to do. There was a lot of restrictions on what you could do in that summer. There was a lot of just things that were different, but the reason that it was like, it had to happen that summer. If there was nothing that went on that summer, I don't know where we would be today.
Well, I'm actually talking about the 2020 summer, like before we even got there. Where there was nothing happening. There was no drum corps. Like some people did some like Zoom recordings of like splicing everyone's videos together. Nothing was happening. And I mentioned it earlier. I don't know if it'll make it to now, but when we got the documents and the transition to our brass team, having those like 15 kids on the brass roster from that summer of 2020.
That's what you started with.
That's what we started with. We came into the process with 15 people that had marched 2020.
They had been under.
That's where we started. They had been in contract with the Troopers, and I think 4 of them were vets, and those were the 4 section leaders for the brass, essentially.
Boom. How do you go from there for the rest of the season? How do you like?
So the entire process from getting to that September of 2020 to the summer was just a grind.
Right.
Working for Mary as the caption head, with Tim Snyder being the program coordinator, but also like helping Mary with the brass team because that's his thing. Tim Snyder, a former brass caption head for the Mandarins, for the Oregon Crusaders, for Troopers. Been around, done a lot. Great brass caption head, great guy. So very passionate about what he does. But now in this new program coordinator role where he's helping design the shows and write the music instead of being on the educational side. He did still help teach, but he's more you're teaching the team. Yeah. And he still runs ensemble. He runs the full group now. Yeah. But a lot of it is led by the people he put in place, like Mary and Lindsay and Lauren Teal, who's been at the Troopers for a long time as percussion caption head. She's awesome, by the way. That's awesome. Getting to 2021 was just because we had so few numbers, we were just recruiting, emails. It's like we met every week, every Sunday from September all the way until July. Because the COVID summer didn't start until July 1st in 2021. Right. So like every week, every Sunday was, how many people are you emailing? How many people are you calling? We still don't have a full drum corps. How many people have you texted today? What do we get those numbers up? Those are rookie numbers. Get your contacts up. And I remember just like sitting at my computer in my 1-bedroom apartment in Joplin, just like furiously emailing every single chance I got, reaching out to like, I was cold calling people. I was emailing people I had never talked to.
Oh my goodness.
I literally, so the Missouri All-State Band, I'm in Missouri. So I went through and tried to make connections to as many Missouri people as I could to try to recruit. I went down the Missouri All-State Band list and saw what every school had a musician in the All-State Band. Emailed their directors, hey, your kid's an All-State Band player. Are they interested in drum corps? Doesn't matter the instrument. We will take, if they are a good enough musician to make All-State, they're probably a good enough musician to march drum corps.
Right.
And I kid you not, I think I emailed like over half the band director population in the state of Missouri by the time May hit. And we had put together this like huge database of band directors for colleges, high schools, everywhere across the country we could think of. Every connection we've ever had in the activity, we were reaching out to people to be like, do you got any kids? Any kids want to march? Any kids want to come out? Please. And, you know, it was no pun intended. It was relentless recruiting. It was relentless recruiting for that 2021 season.
Oh God.
Just it was.
That's a lot.
There were times that I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I signed up for. This is not.
I'm cold calling. I'm supposed to be teaching. And the worst part about it was like, because we were doing all this work with no camps, we didn't even see these kids. We didn't even see any of the members. You don't even know what it's going to be like when you actually get into, oh my.
So it would literally be a revolving door of like, we get kids to buy in and say, yes, I'm going to do it. And then within a week or two, they ghost us. And it's just, I think we went, but before filling up like a 70-person horn line, I think we went through 300 contracts or something crazy like that. Whoa. I think we extended over 300 contracts, and not everyone accepted all of them. And some people accepted and then dropped it.
Yeah.
But by the time that we were done and made it to July 1st, it was a ridiculous amount of people that had come through our system and left the system. And I think when it was all said and done, we got to July 1st and we had a full trumpet section of 24, 16 mellophones, 22 baritones, and 14 tubas. I think we could only get 14 tubas. And keep in mind, I was busting my butt. And so were the other tech staff, and the entire brass staff was just busting butt to try to fill this drum corps for a COVID season.
Yep.
Which, as you can probably attest to, a lot of people didn't want to do a COVID season.
Right.
A lot of people that had marched before
people who
were
had
like,
done the activity.
No,
people who had been in the activity for a while. Everybody I know who had did like a couple of years were just like,
nah. Yeah. So our big thing was like, I think out of the 70-something person horn line that summer, we had 4 vets. And without going too into detail of the 2 of them quit within the first 2 weeks of that summer. So we were left with 2 troopers vets that were our section leaders out of like a 70-person horn line, which was like crazy, literally starting from scratch almost with a brand new team,
a brand new group,
brand new brass team, brand new visual team, brand new. I think the only returning team that summer was percussion and admin. And even then, the admin staff was a lot of new people too. We had a new choir director, Mike Goff. Mike Goff was promoted to the choir director role. Shout out Mike Goff. Oh my God. Amazing choir director the last few years. Amazing human being. Love him.
Hell yeah.
He is like the father of the drum corps. He's such a good, he's such an advocate for the members and always keeps member experience front of the mind. He's moved into a new role recently. But Mike was the lead in the charge on recruitment too, from the admin side of things. I'm sure you saw some of like the promotional stuff Troopers was doing over social media.
Oh my God, I saw everything, dude.
Oh my
Corps
God,
were pulling out all the stops, bro, to get people to do. They were pulling out all the stops.
Mike is a silly, goofy guy. He'll do any. I don't know if you kept up with any of the Troopers social media, but he did this thing last summer where he dressed up in a wig and like wore old clothing and called himself Larry. He's trying to do like an undercover boss type thing. You can look it up. He's silly.
We gotta find this.
Gotta find it. You'll have to watch it after. The Troopers put out this like little mini docuseries following Mike dressed up as Larry doing undercover boss stuff for the drum corps. So this is the type of guy you're thinking about running social media, trying to recruit people for this 2021 season.
Yeah,
and putting out silly posts like, March the Troopers because we have the best mustaches in DCI. March Troopers because we're the most yeehaw corps in DCI. And we had put out so many social media posts that like literally are the last like string of social media posts was March Troopers because please.
Because please.
Because please.
Please.
March Troopers because please. And that's the one that went viral. That's the one that everybody talked about.
With the PLZ, like, they said, that's the one.
March Troopers, please. Please, March Troopers. And I think we literally finished filling the horn line for that summer because of that post. So many people submitted their application to join Troopers because
they really need this.
You know, it was really funny, and it was genius. And in the moment, we were like, "Oh my god, did we really just post because please on social media?"
And then all of these kids are like, "Hey, I want to march here."
Yes.
And you're like,
"Okay, yes, please." Yeah. Shout out to that 2021 horn line.
Wow.
Man, that group of kids was the most resilient and hardworking kids in a drum corps that I've seen, and marching or teaching the last 2 years. A lot of great kids. But there was something special about that 2021 group coming together, putting your blind faith and trust to have a short season and go out to Casper, Wyoming to go do a month of drum corps. Like, I would not have done that if I was marching. I'd be like, no way. You're asking me to pay a couple $1,000 to be gone for a month to do band? No shot. No shot.
Those kids did.
And they did. And honestly, without that group of kids in 2021, I don't think the Troopers would be having the storyline we're having these days.
Because it's an incredible storyline the past 3 years.
It's an incredible storyline.
The way that the group has just gone from, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's just felt like this like meteorite, like just takeoff of just like from 2021 of just like the Troopers are here, very real, very, very good. Show designs are incredible. The talent's getting better every single year. Like, it's just like, I am so excited. I talked at the beginning of this episode about like, in my eyes right now, the Troopers are the most exciting organization. No bias or anything, because we're here. I've been thinking about like ever since they got to make finals that first time, I was like, this is probably the most exciting corps to follow right now in DCI because of like the storyline, everything. I mean, when Tim was originally there before Oregon, when he was trying to build that brass line from what it was in 2012 or 13, or when he got there in 13, and they were kind of in the basement of the brass land in semifinals, and then he got that team to right there, almost
so
a finals.
Close.
So close. And then this whole journey happens. He gets to come back. He gets to be a program coordinator for this corps that he had built up. All of these people who are getting put in place, and the organization is sticking together and building up. And it's really fun to see. It really is. It's
being on the inside of it. It's just a joy. I mean, like, not trying to like be cheesy about it, but like just seeing
it truly is.
Seeing the growth of the organization, both from the staff perspective and just seeing everyone come back every year and keep building and keep pushing.
Which I guarantee made like 2022 when Troopers makes finals. Yeah. Which I think was that for the first time in organization.
That was 2020. I think the last time was 2009. So it had been 13 years. 13 years.
Gotcha. Because I was just like, that was so monumental and that happened. And by the way, just what a badass show. Just so fun. Sick. Yeah. So sick. And I remember like getting chills with the whole drum major thing and like the face paint and the emotion, the raw emotion. I was just like, these the guys. Like, I'm with the Troopers right now, dude. Like, this is so sick. And just to see the story, it's just, oh my goodness. It's incredible. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible.
I think you're going to appreciate it more after talking about it. I'm not going to go super detail about it, but the 2022 season, COVID was still prevalent, and corps were having to shut down for weeks at a time because COVID outbreaks. And so right around San Antonio, right after San Antonio, the corps gets a bad case of COVID, and we have to send like over half the drum corps home.
Oh,
do you know the Night Beat show that Crown hosts in Wake Forest? We marched the Wake Forest show with 72 members on the field.
Oh my God.
And that was like, we had beaten some teams in San Antonio, and we were looking like we were going to keep going up, and are we going to do it? Is this it? And then that hits, and we're like, it's over. We're done.
We have to send half of them home, and it's nothing. You have to. It's procedure.
We have to send them home, and we did.
And it's tough for them too. I can't even imagine what that's like.
I was on tour at the time when that happened, and man, the kids that were there were so defeated. But I won't forget Tim getting in front of that group of the kids that were remaining, be like, we can look at this as the end of the season, or we can look at this as the beginning of the climb, and just sitting them down and talking about, we need to bust our butt with who we have here to keep this drum corps going, so that when everyone gets back from COVID, that they can just hop right in.
Yep.
And we can clean, push, because this show ain't done. This season is not over.
Hell
and
no.
that J-Buck video we watched earlier with the Colts, it was like that level of like,
yeah, it's just one of those moments where you're like, okay, that's the thing we needed. That's the thing. Push we needed.
And
I mean, Tim knows how to get the guys
fired up. That is Tim's bread and butter. Tim knows how to get people to work
fired up.
You will run through a wall for Tim Snyder.
Yeah,
anybody will.
Yep.
He just has that power. He has that charisma. He's him.
He knows how to get you to work. He knows how to get the best out of the people.
Yes. That's what I love. I love working for Tim. I love working on Tim's teams, being in the drum corps, just seeing him be able to, inspire young groups of marchers to just do the impossible sometimes. Like willing a corps. I'm going to say this. The membership willed the troopers into finals that year. Like with the show, the show design was great. But the membership really brought it. Those last like 2 weeks, we came back. It's up to them August to buy 1st. In. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we got our last members back from sending them out from COVID on August 1st.
Yeah,
and from then on, it was just a different drum corps. Yeah. Like the drum corps that left after San Antonio, when we were in Arkansas, when we sent the majority of the kids home or to hotels or whatever they had to do to get cleared for COVID.
Right.
From Arkansas on, I ended up getting off a tour at this point, but from the time they came back August 1st, it's just a different drum corps. The kids came back hungry. The kids came back fired up. They came back ready to work, ready to do the thing.
To prove it to themselves that they could do it.
Yeah, and they did.
Yep.
And man, that last like few days of prelims, semis, finals, I remember sitting at home doing whatever. I forget where I wasn't there. I think I had band camp for the college I was GA for, but I remember seeing the prelim scores and I was like, uh-oh. And I remember driving up for semifinals thinking it was going to be the last show and going on the field and watching them perform. And I was like, that was the best run. There's a chance. That was it. And I remember going up, we walked up the tunnel, up to the parking lot for the Jolish photo.
Yep.
And Tim's had got the whole corps surrounding him talking. He's like, that was it.
That was
you
the one.
Delivered. You did it.
Yep.
Whatever happens now is going to happen.
Out of your control now,
you did
your job.
It.
Yeah.
And so we were waiting. I remember we went to Basie's. You know Basie's?
Yeah.
Oh. We were at the new Basie's. I don't know if you've been to the new Basie's.
I didn't even know they made another one. I thought they just completely shut it down. The whole thing happened. They were just like, "No, we're closing." Like
it's back open. I think it's in a different location. I had never went to Basie's as a member, but I remember the brass staff went there and we were celebrating the end of the season because we weren't sure if that was the end or not. We're like, "Cheers!"
Right.
We're having a good time. Try not to think about it. Everyone's checking their phones constantly, though. Like, oh my god.
Did the update?
Getting the update, and we're all just sitting there like. And finally, someone gets a notification like, "We're in, we're in." We're in. We did it, and we just went crazy. And we walk back to the buses, and the kids are like going crazy, going nuts. Oh man, I have never seen a group of individuals more excited than seeing those 2022 troopers hyped about making finals.
And it just adds that other, like, now if you go back and watch that show again and go watch it again, now knowing all of this, for me, I'm going to go watch it again now after this and just be like, it's going to get more goosebumps because watching all of that, it's just like, it's going to add that extra layer. It's just like, man, hearing this is why to hear the stories of what these kids went through to get to where they are, all the like persevering.
That's what it's about. That's what the activity's about. Yes, it's about 100%. Marching and playing and all that stuff, but it's really about those moments. Music is the moments.
Oh, dude, music is the moment. Yes. I love it. Absolutely love it. So I'm gonna finish off with like 3 questions here. Just like 3 simple questions, just to round us out here. What do you think about the state of drum corps right now?
I think about this a lot. Just thinking to myself, talking to other staff members, talking to friends, and while I think drum corps as an activity is in one of the best places it's ever been for like the membership, where member experience is at an all-time priority, and trying to consider the health and safety of all the membership and trying to put the best product forward. I think, the staffs at drum corps are just on another level. The current level of teaching happening in the drum corps activity is just at an all-time high, in my opinion. There's so many great educators, so many great members, so many great things happening across the activity.
Right.
Just the activity itself and its current state is a little unsustainable, just with the touring model and the process and the fees, man. That's
the number one
more
thing.
expensive than ever to march drum corps, and it's just really a bummer because
It's becoming
there's
less
so
and
many
less
great
accessible.
kids. It's so inaccessible. And just talking to kids, I teach in a decently well-off school district with a lot of people that come from backgrounds where they can afford a lot of things. And I'm talking to some of these kids that are middle class and above, and they're like, it's that much? I can't do that.
No.
If the typical middle class kid can't march drum corps,
that's what I was. Like we talked about this last episode. Me and my brother.
I don't think I could afford marching in drum corps right now.
I couldn't today. Hell no.
And
it was bad enough my last year.
Trying to convince students to come out and march is just hard, just because the fees and kids want to do the activity. Kids want to march. People want to be doing this activity. People want to do the thing. It's hard right now.
Money. It's very tough
it's tough. And I wish there was something we could do as an activity to make it better. I think it's going to be some major changes to how TCI as an activity is run. And I'm not a professional in any of that. I don't know the ins and outs of all that. I'm not going to pretend to know, because I know that there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and why it either is kept how it is for a reason that I don't know about, that I'm not aware of. But I know that if we want to get the average high school band kid to go out and march drum corps someday, something's got to change.
Absolutely. 100%. What is the most valuable piece of information so far in your teaching career that you've gotten from somebody, whether it be drum corps or just anywhere in the world? What is the most valuable piece of information you've gotten?
It's tough. I've had a lot of really great teachers and a lot of really great people to learn from. I think one that really sticks out to me, just because it was so formative in my first years of teaching, and I'm still in my first years of teaching. I'm not like some sage 20-year band director. I'm on year 3 of teaching. I've taught drum corps for whatever. But one of my music education professors at Missouri State, Miss Vicky Scott, shout out Miss Scott. She is the bomb. 30-year elementary music teacher, seasoned professional, most loving, caring human being ever. Amazing. In our elementary music class, teaching how to teach K through 5. Something she said that I didn't really understand at the time, but now as I've gotten older and had experience and been a couple places, she stuck out that now resonates daily, is the students you teach don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That one hit, and didn't hit with me until I got my first teaching job. And here I am, Mr. Drum Corps, marched 4 years of drum corps, taught really good high school band with Kickapoo and as a technician. And I thought I knew my stuff. I was fresh out of college, like, all right, I'm ready to be a band director. I go into this school district, a little bit more rural, a little different than what I'm used to. And, a couple of the kids there did not vibe with me at all. And I was trying really hard to push excellence, and you should be and care about band because you should want to be good.
Which you've been taught.
Which I've been, that's how I've been. That's how I learned in drum corps. That's how I have got to where I am, because I really wanted to be good at what I do.
Right.
And getting into that first year and then into the COVID year, just realizing that yes, it's really important to have high standards and to pursue excellence, to be able to do things at a high level is amazing and it's really fun. But if you don't have the passion for it, it's not going to work out in the end. Yeah. And so a big paradigm shift for me as an educator was going from a music first approach, where all I cared about was the music and how to make the music better and how to bring the music out, to a more people approach. Music doesn't happen without people. Music does not exist without humans. And making music together as a group of humans is one of the most humanizing experiences you can do.
Yeah.
And until you focus on the people you're working with and the people you're teaching and knowing the individuals in your groups and knowing the students you teach and having those relationships, the real learning doesn't happen until that first stage of connection is made.
Yep.
And that for me was a big thing, a big lesson learned after my first year. I was like, oh man, I came in guns blazing trying to, here's how you march straight leg. Here's how to play 9 count tones and get a release exactly on 1. Use your left foot. Crazy band director, crazy, do everything right the first time type to, I care about you. Let's care about music together.
Absolutely. 100%. Just like, that's the biggest thing that I think. It's just like, I only got to teach 1 year. I'm not a big like education person. I never went for that. Like I did it for a year at high school tech, like the same, but like overall, I think that's just the most important thing that any musician, any performer would appreciate is not, I mean, yes, we all want to be excellent. We all want to be great at what we do. But at the end of the day, like if we're not caring for one another, does any of this mean anything? Caring for you, the person who you are, not just you, the musician, the performer, whatever, but you, the person, you know?
You can't show up to make music if you're not in a good mental space. And
absolutely
being able to have those connections and talk to kids and have those hard conversations when they're not doing so hot or something's going on, and being able to support them in those times. And that way, when they are at their best, they'll give you what you're looking for as a band director.
I mean, you can change a kid's life.
Yeah.
Like just being, I mean, there's how many stories of music educators or just people in music in general were just like, I'll never forget that teacher right there. That teacher right there, like looked out for me, and it just completely changed my outlook, my whole, like everything about my life. And it's just like that one thing, if you take that one little extra bit of effort just to look out for somebody like that, you know, it goes so much farther than you think. It could be easy as just a little 5-minute conversation. And for that person, that could just mean the world to them that you took the time out of your day, you know.
And it may not seem a lot to you at the time, but to them, it's world defining. It's world changing.
The world. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one little sentence you said, I believe in you, to a student one time could change their entire life outcome, just because nobody's ever said, I believe in you to them before.
And now someone believes in them and they're like, okay, well, I can do this. I will. And it's just,
we carry such a enormous burden, a glorious burden, glorious purpose. If you're a fan of Loki, of trying to, you know, we influence and have such a important role in so many kids' lives, and whether they end up continuing to do music outside of school or not, whether they go to study music or not, or if they just keep it as a hobby and into their adult lives, you know, how to make the individual a better person because of music.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. That is amazing. My last question here to end off this amazing episode. This has been incredible. My last question to end us off here. What does drum corps mean to you?
You know, I think drum corps is one of the main things in my life that has shaped who I am. And it's continues to shape who I am as a teacher, as an educator, as a person. And for me, drum corps is more than just band on a field. It's about making people better. And for me, drum corps is a vehicle for people to learn about themselves, to learn about music, to learn about working together to accomplish a common goal, and learning how to interact in the world through the scope of drum corps. It's just such a unique experience, and you can't find it anywhere else. Like, you know, you kind of get a taste of it in sports. You can kind of get a taste of it in like club activities, but like the level of dedication and the level of interpersonal responsibility and the sense of duty you have to others, and the level of you push yourself too. There's just not many other things like it in the world. And I wish more people got to experience it. I hope everybody that has the chance and the ability to march drum corps does, because I think it really does change lives. And to me, drum corps is a world changer, a life changer.
Absolutely. Drum corps it's changed everybody's lives who's ever done it. Almost talking for 4 hours before Eric seriously kills me. He will.
But this one's worth it, maybe.
No, this one was worth every single minute of it. No doubt about it. Eric, please don't kill me. We love Eric. Everyone comment down below. We love Eric. We love Eric here, dude. Eric's the best.
Big shouts to Eric.
All shall love me and despair.
This has been episode 15, ladies and gentlemen. This was an incredible episode with our guy, Andrew Reeder here. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode today. Please go check out our past episodes. We've had Keith Ty on. We've had Taylor Womack on. Talked about some more Crown stories in there. We've had the CEO of DCI on, who just recently stepped in November.
That's a cool episode. That's a great episode.
It was fun. It was very fun. Very fun to do. Very lucky that I got that. But awesome. Very fun. Very fun to get, like, that was, go watch it. I can talk about it all day. Go watch it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.